1, 2, check Chuffy 1, 2. Give me 1 second so that I can just see that this is rolling. Hi, you're with Scott. I'm Ganja Kid. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear. I have to do a sound check, so I have to hear it. I have to hear left ear. I have to do a sound check, so I have to hear it. I have to hear left ear. Yeah, I can hear that. It means you can hear that. Right, who's this chuffer on screen? This is Shelley again. Oh, it's Shelley again. When your homeschool's more about you than your child. Well, that sounds bad, doesn't it? Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. This is my favourite homeschooler, Shelley. This is my favourite homeschooler, Shelley. She does a channel called There's No Place Like Home. There certainly isn't, I'll tell you that. Recent videos, when your homeschool is more about you than your child's, better watch that. We better have a look, because it's homeschooling, isn't it? Serious business. But also, question the narrative, Aurora Borealis and the throne of God. Well, I didn't know there was a narrative concerning the Aurora Borealis. I didn't know that there was one of those, you know, conspiracy narratives, fake news narratives about the Aurora Borealis. I didn't realise they were trying to conceal the throne of God from us by just, you know, describing it in scientific terms. So we're going to look at 2 videos today. When your homeschool's more about you than your child, to get a feel for this homeschooling thing, and then question the narrative Aurora Borealis for a feel for the woman that's doing the homeschooling. I've got a real bee in my bonnet about this chuffer. Particularly this chuffer, because she's promoting a lot of bad ideas, I think. So in today's episode, I'm going to try and pick apart a few of those bad ideas and just talk about them. Now, there's a few more things coming up on today's show that I will tell you about, and I'll tell you about a couple of other things quickly too. Later on, we've got an announcement, a big announcement on this show. We're listening to the calm and relaxing music Genshin Impact. Oh, lovely. New one from Atari Mango. Oh, thank you. New zone in Genshin Impact coming out. Oh, hang on. Tell you about that in a minute. So we've got calm and relaxing music. Later on, we've got a big announcement concerning a certain couple of YouTubers. This one in particular, Steve of the Dead. Shouldn't really count my chickens before they're hatched, but a little announcement regarding some psychology and our streams, so stay tuned for that. Also on today's episode, I wanted to tell you about where I've been, because I've not been on YouTube that much this last couple of weeks, and there's been a couple of reasons. So we're going to go on to No Place Like Home homeschooling in just a minute. Okay, we're going to have a look at these strange videos that are coming out, do a bit of reaction stuff. It's kind of like falls in the realm of conspiracy theory debunk, but it's a bit different to that. It's a bit bigger than that, and I wanted to do this just in case we can maybe push some of this. I've got some ideas in my head. Anyway, look, point is, where have I been? What have I been doing? Well, I've actually been on Twitch kind of regularly. If you look at our videos here on Twitch, 2 days, 4 days, 8 days, 9 days, yeah, kind of regularly. Been on Twitch doing the streaming. It's been mainly Genshin Impact. Now, you might not be here on YouTube watching my Genshin Impact stuff. You might be, I don't know. But the Genshin Impact, I think, is a pretty fucking cool game. I'm having lots of fun on it. And what's happening in Genshin Impact, this is just an announcement. Don't worry, I'm not talking about Genshin Impact all episode. It's just so you know what's going on the channel. Genshin Impact. Put that into there, in the news. There's a release of a new event. There's a release of a new area, Sumeru. So that update is going to happen in about 2 weeks, I think. And on the way up there, it's basically like a new release in the game. It's a new thing. It's a new update to the game. So on the way up there, they're doing a lot more content. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be lots of fun. It's going to be lots of fun. I'm having lots of fun doing it. But in order for me to be able to play the new content when it's dropping in 2 weeks, I need to have finished all the old stuff. Now, I started Genshin Impact a couple of years later than most people. You can get into it now. Anyone can get into it now. There's no limit on when you start. But I have not finished the main game on Genshin Impact. There's a little bit more for me to do. So I'm doing it on stream, live, on Twitch. That's where I've been doing it. I would have just left it, you know, I'd have said, oh, you know, don't have to push Genshin Impact or fit it into my schedule, but because in 2 weeks it comes out, new zone, I want to be ready and on it. So I've been focusing on that a bit, right? Also, we've had a heat wave in the UK, and it's been very hot in the daytimes. I've not really felt like streaming in the daytimes, because this room I'm in gets quite hot. Deal? Okay. We're back on now, though. We're back on. We've got plans, we've got things happening, we've got ideas. Oh, what's coming up later? We'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. And I've got Genshin Impact. Right. that means that on my channel, on our channel, on this channel, you'll see that we do this, what I like to call a carousel of content. We've got different stuff. It comes round on the regular. So we've got Genshin Impact videos. You get that. We've got Mental Health Monday. Been slacking on that a little bit, but I've got ideas. I'll tell you about at the end of the episode. Words on Stream every Wednesday. We give money to charity. Again, last 2 weeks have been off, but Words on Stream every Wednesday. We fly around in our little volocopters looking over the land in Flight Simulator. We do Guns in America. We do prison cell cooking. We do the colour of happiness. We do all sorts of different, what I'd call random. You know, random. We also look into these Tartarians and these conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. I want this to be a revolving carousel of content. So if you say, I like this conspiracy theory chat that we do, debunking these strange ideas, then you can come back in a week or two and there'll be another video. Or if you say, I like the Genshin Impact, you can come back in a week or two, there'll be another video. You know, I play Genshin Impact at the weekends on stream on Twitch. So, you know, hopefully there should always be something you like coming round. And if you say, I'm not really into the Genshin Impact, that's not for me, fine. Watch the other stuff, come here for that. You know, don't be cross, this is my live stream archive. And if you do like Genshin Impact, great, because there's going to be lots of it. The issue I've got, and it is an issue to me, is that I want that repeating theme of change on the uploads. So I don't want it to be like 20 Genshin Impact uploads in a row. That would be bad, because people will look at the channel and say, it's a Genshin Impact channel. And I want them to be aware, maybe I should write it in the top bit what it is, but I want them to be aware that we do a lot of different stuff. Okay? So I've got backing up, and I say backing up, you know, I've got all these Genshin Impact uploads to do. And they are backing up now. And I want them to be live by the time the new expansion goes live, so that everyone can watch my playthrough in, you know, they don't see my uploads coming up and say, oh look, a new upload, Genshin Impact. Oh, that's from 2 weeks ago. Hello, Historian. Good to have you here. Just doing a little bit of lowdown from the high ground before we get into it today. Today we're doing No Place Like Home, and she's got some stuff to say today. Homeschool's more about you than your child, talking about why Shakespeare's a load of bollocks. And question the narrative, Aurora Borealis and the Throne of God. So that's a new one. I've not heard any Tartarians talk about the Throne of God before, but we're going to have a look at that. Just giving you a bit of lowdown from the high ground about the stream. And, you know, I've been away a couple of weeks because I've been hot. It's been hot in this room, and I've been playing a lot of Genshin Impact on the Twitch. I'm going to bring things back into balance now. And I'd also like to say that I've got a big announcement later on at the end of stream. I'm going to make it about this Steve of the Dead and what's going on with us. And then what also happened recently is I played the Looker. I thought that was quite a good stream, you know. I thought, hello Snips. I thought the Looker was quite a good stream. So I uploaded it here. We did it on, it was gameplay, so we did it on Twitch. Uploaded it here, and then I took 4 shorts out of it, and I've uploaded them. And look, this one's got 5,000 views. So that's quite good. So I was unsure about how to, like 5 days ago, I thought, oh, I don't know what to upload next. Let's just leave it to just simmer, and then we'll get back on it. So that's the plan now, is I'm back on it. We're going to do gameplay stuff on Twitch, going to upload it here. This next week I've got to do a lot of uploads, a lot of Genshin uploads, and people might think, oh, it's a bit of a lot. It's going to be what it's got to be. You know, I've got to get on to balancing that out, and at the same time I've got to do these streams so that we have this variety of content. So here I am. We're getting round to it. We're getting round to it. Big announcement later about Steve of the Dead and what's happening on stream. This is the relaxing sound of Genshin Impact, part 3. Oh, a new one, yeah, because there's new music out from Genshin Impact. I really like Genshin Impact. It's up to you. I'm not going to go on about it any further now. If you want to watch our streams, you can. But for today, there's no place like home. Now is the summer of our discontent. I used to read Terry Pratchett, and Terry Pratchett used to make a lot of jokes that would... See, we'll get onto this. That's a really good comment, and we'll get onto this in a minute, actually, because let me move this around so you can be seen a bit better. That's a really good comment, and we're going to get onto that in a minute. That's a really good content. In Terry Pratchett, he started... Witches Abroad starts with the 3 witches huddled around a cauldron, and I wonder if I can get it, actually. Terry... Is it Witches Abroad or Weird Sisters? Weird Sisters. I think it's Weird Sisters, isn't it? reintroduces Granny Weatherwax. So no, it might be Witches Abroad. I'm doing this, I'm getting off track. But it's a beautiful scene in the, I think it's Witches Abroad, isn't it? Or it might not be, it might be Lords and Ladies. Anyway, the point is that the book starts with 3 witches around a cauldron and it emulates that Shakespeare. But they say things like, have you brought the sandwiches? I thought you were supposed to bring the sandwiches. I wasn't supposed to bring the sandwiches. You brought the sandwiches. I'm supposed to bring the milk from last week, remember? Don't put that in the cauldron. I wanted tea. I'm having coffee. Like, they're arguing about all mundane things. And it's really funny. And there's another one that I think is really funny is, now is the winter of our discount tents. Now is the winter of our discount tents. That actually happened in a shop, didn't it? They actually advertised their they actually advertised their you know, their cheap camping gear. Now is the winter of our discount tents. Hello, Squirrel Sniper. Hello. Hello, Squirrel Sniper. I've got a right one for us today, so let's kick off. Let's kick off. I'll show you what we're going to get onto in just a second, because this actually blows my mind.
At work by communicating.
And I think even if you're a flat earther or a Tartari or anything, doesn't matter what you are, I think this will still be a bit like...
Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another Question the Narrative video, and today's topic is on the Aurora Borealis and the Throne of God.
Right.
So the Aurora Borealis are the lights that we typically see in the north, also called the Northern Lights, and there are also some seen in the southern hemisphere, I believe called the Aurora Australis. I'm not sure if I said that correctly.
Do you know what? She's teaching me something now. I didn't know that. Southern... Wait. I bet it's on... I bet this is on Wikipedia. If you do Northern Lights... L-I-G-H... Yes. I bet what she's read is... You know, I bet that's like the second thing it says on... Wait, Northern Lights Wikipedia. Like, quite often what will happen is she'll read something out on her stream and it'll be literally the... It'll be literally like... You know, word for word off here. An aurora, commonly known as the polar lights, is light display on Earth's sky. Auroras display dynamic patterns of brilliant lights that appear as curtain rays. The result of disturbances in the magnetosphere caused by the solar wind. Ionization and excitation of atmospheric constituents emit light of varying colour and complexity. The form of aurora, occurring in bands around both polar regions, is also dependent on the amount of acceleration imparted to precipitating particles. Quite long words. But we're saying it's like literally particles, electrons and protons in the upper atmosphere that become ionized. We learned about ionization when we learned about Tesla and electricity, and they emit light through that. Wow, that's quite interesting. So there we go. That's a background for that, the Aurora Borealis. What's she going to say to us about it? What's she telling us?
But what we are generally told that the Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights, are, is a result of...
She has got... she's searched it on... Well, the thing is that's different is she searches on DuckDuckGo, the dark web browser produced by the Navy. Hang on. Who created DuckDuckGo? Not the Navy. Not the Navy. The dark web was created by the Navy. DuckDuckGo's just... It's like a... You know, it's like a Google, but for people who don't want to use Google. Fair enough. You know, I used to use it on the dark web when I was trying to buy drugs on the dark web. DuckDuckGo, right? So DuckDuckGo, and they've come up with this, and it's the first thing that she's reading. The first thing. She doesn't do a good look into
interactions between the sun and
Hello, Rob Files.
Atmosphere.
Hello, Rob Files. How am I? I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. It's been pretty hot, I tell you what. Last couple of weeks, it's been pretty hot here, and it's been unbearable in this streaming room, and I've not been able to do my daytime streams, but we've got a big announcement coming up at the end of this stream about something that's going to happen, so stay with us. And yeah, I'm pretty good. How are you? How are you? Hope everyone in chat is doing well. Squirrel Sniper's already popping some more stuff for me to have to pop on my notepad. There's quite a lot for me to get through in here, you know.
So that can be a believable answer for those who believe in the heliocentric model. For those of us who question it, though, that does leave some...
Hang on, my background music's a little bit loud. Just turn that down. One thing you could do for me, if Mitari Mango, if you ever watch, if you could just do one of these edits, but just make it really quiet so I can use it in the background, thanks.
Room for us to think, well, maybe there's a different reason that there are these beautiful lights at the North Pole.
Oh, maybe there's a different reason why these beautiful lights are at the North Pole. Well, I don't know. You know, having had it explained to me in scientific terms that seem to make sense, I don't know. Would there be a different reason? Can anyone in chat maybe think of a different reason why there's beautiful lights at the North Pole? I mean, I don't know. If freezing in Melbourne. Freezing? Doesn't make sense, does it? We're arse over tit today. You're cold and we're hot. Your husband used to go up to Trondheim and used to watch the lights in awe. Close to God in a tight situation. Now, take these words home and think it through, or the next rhyme I write might be about you. Son, they shook. There ain't no such things as half... I'll tell you what. Now I've got that in my head. I've got to get it out. I got you. Stuck on the realness. We'd be the infamous, you heard of us. Official Queensbridge murderers. The mob coming equipped with warfare. Beware of my crime family who got enough shots to share for all those who want to profile a pose. Rock you in your face. Stab your brain with your nose bone. You all alone in these streets, cousin. Every man for themself in this land. We be gunning. Keep them shook crews running like they're supposed to. They come around but they never come close to. I can see it inside their face. Got their hope. I can see it inside your face. Whoa. How come I got it wrong? Keep them shook crews running like they're supposed to. I can see it inside the face. It's got the whole crew laced up with bullet holes and such. Speak the wrong words, man, and you will get touched. You could put your whole army against my team, man. I guarantee you it'll be your very last time. Breathe, and simple words just don't move me. You're minor, I'm major. Hold up in the game and don't deserve to be a player. Don't make me have to call your name out. My crew is featherweight. Your crew is featherweight. My gunshots will make you levitate. Yeah, anyway, that's Mob Deep. So, a bit of the old Mob Deep there. It just popped into my head. Look, let's find out what she thinks about the Northern Lights, because I've got no other explanation.
And here's just some photos. Absolutely stunning.
Stunning.
And I wish I would love to be able to see them in
She'd love to be able to see them in person. You can.
person someday.
You can.
But yeah, if you do not believe in the heliocentric model, or at least question it, because...
hang on. If I don't believe in the heliocentric model, now I'm just going to check, because I think heliocentric means sun at the center. Like, I think it means sun at the center of the earth, the universe. Helios, like sun. Helios is homeopathy, Greek god of the sun. Yeah, Helios is the sun. So heliocentric. Having represented the sun as the center. Yeah, it's like the solar system. So now we're saying if you question the solar system, it's quite a big thing to question, isn't it? Quite a big thing to question. It might sound in or out. Is it my internet connection? Quite a big thing to question. It might sound in or out. Is it my internet connection? I don't know, because I can't hear it. Question. 1 2 check. Chuffy 1 2. I can't hear the mic because I have it turned off in my headphones. Because otherwise I hear myself just like slightly delayed and it does my head in. But I don't think we're having a problem. Maybe anyone else in chat can tell you. But I think we're okay. I have got a microphone that goes and turns itself off and on while I'm working. But this is not that microphone.
You know, I always leave a tiny percentage open that I could be wrong in believing that the Bible tells us that the earth is level and stationary.
Hang on, wait. She leaves a tiny percent, like 99% sure, but 1% unsure that the earth is level and stationary like the Bible tells us. Well, it doesn't tell us it's level and stationary. Like, not really. We've been through this before. Like, I'm not going to go over it big style again, but we've been through this before because we know who wrote the Bible. And what the Bible, you know, the Bible wasn't written by God. It was written by a load of people all hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They got the scrolls together. They put some scrolls in, took some scrolls out. We don't like this. We like this. We translate it. Do you read ancient Aramaic? No. So can you translate the Bible? No. Are the translated words exactly the same? No. What does this word mean? Well, it means sand in ancient Aramaic. Does it? Well, not really. In ancient Aramaic, it means sort of a fine sand that falls from the hand, but we don't have a direct translation, so we just say sand. But to them, it might have meant silt. We don't have a direct translation. No, you can't do a translation of ancient Aramaic. You can't say who wrote the Bible. We don't even know. All we know is it definitely wasn't God. No one even suggests it's God. No one even says that's God's word. They say it's Paul's word, or it's, you know, Thomas's word, or it's like Moses's word. You know, they don't say it's God's word. So we know that there's no point in trying to use the Bible as some sort of historical reference point, or like, you know, scientific start. It's not that. It's some stories and some proverbs and some parables and some funny ideas that got held onto and lost and changed and manipulated and translated. And now I want a divorce and I can't have one, so I'm changing the religion and all this shit, right? So forget that. Forget that. It doesn't tell us the earth is level and stationary for a start. Otherwise, everyone that's Christian would believe in a flat earth, and they all fucking don't, I'm telling you. And here's another point. Right? I'm not getting angry, I'm getting excited. Here's another point, right? Which is that she's got a tiny percentage of doubt in her mind. What does the Bible say about doubt? What does the Bible say about doubt? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your flesh and refreshment to your bones. So what that means there, and she might not be able to understand the meanings, we'll look at her schooling in a minute. But what that means is, don't try and be too smart. Don't try and work it all out, because you're not gonna. One human can't understand this entire complex marriage of atom. We can't. We have even individual physicists go off on their own little things, you know, CERN and the Hadron Collider, and then they don't understand the deep sea biology, because you haven't got time for everything. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he'll make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Question the narrative. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. So I would say that what she's doing on her YouTube channel goes against God. Let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like the wave of a sea that's driven and tossed by the wind. Your 1% doubt, 1%, 2% doubt. I hope I'm helping you here. That's not what Jesus wanted. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" No doubts. Straight lines. So I'm just critiquing her in a funny way there, but she believes that the Aurora Borealis might not be what it says.
In believing that the Bible tells us that the earth is level and stationary. I could be wrong. I could be reading it completely the wrong way. So I'm not going to pretend.
Also, you could be reading it the wrong way, or they could be mistranslating it the wrong way to confuse you, couldn't they? Question the narrative. Who wrote the Bible?
Like I have all the answers, but I would like to know what this would possibly be if we don't have a sun that is 93 million miles away and is interacting with the atmosphere. What could it be?
What could it be? Hang on, wait, whoa. Steiner, what could the Northern Lights be? I don't know. If we don't have a sun. Not if we don't have a sun, full stop. If we don't have a sun that's 59 million miles away. If we don't have a sun, well, you know, that's throwing in a pretty big premise there to start with, aren't we? We're throwing in a pretty big premise. Take away the sun, now what is it? I don't know.
A few years ago, I came across a channel called Feed Your Mind.
This looks good. That looks good, doesn't it? Feed your mind. Lightning x thunder is not what you were told. Secrets of storms revealed. Feed your mind. I'm glad that today's... Remember, I just got to bring this up in another window so we can keep referring back to it. I'm glad that today's homeschooler, today's top, no place like... Oh, come on, you stupid typing. No place like home. I've got a problem with this keyboard because my fingers are kind of big and I hit two keys at once. My old keyboard, everything was spaced out. See the distance between the keys so you can't hit them. But on this one, this Steel series, it's a good keyboard, I'll tell you that. It's supposed to be a very good keyboard, but my fingers just hit two things at once. No place like home. Homeschool. Let's go. This is who we're talking to today. This is who we're talking about. And it just, you know, I've got to keep bringing up her face so I can go back and look at her. No place like home, homeschool. No, don't worry about that university. Here she is. That's who she is. She's teaching her kids at home. She's got like 4 kids. She's homeschooling them. They don't go to school. And what's she teaching them? This rubbish.
recommend this channel. He has a lot of fantastic videos. I could
Hello,
not
Joe.
find the one about the Northern Lights. I was very upset, and I think...
Hello, Joe. Today we've got a big episode. We're doing a bit of No Place Like Home, a bit of Northern Lights. We've got a big announcement coming up about psychology on this channel, and then later on I'm going to upload about 3 Genshin Impact videos all at once, and everyone's going to be like, what's going on with all these Genshin Impact videos? And it's because I've been playing a lot of Genshin Impact on the other stream. It's been really hot in here in the UK, so I've been late night Genshin Impact more often, and I've got to get those videos uploaded, and I don't want this channel to look like just an exclusive Genshin channel. I want to keep this revolving door of content, so that's what's happening today.
that a lot of you probably know that YouTube doesn't make finding things on this topic very easy.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't make finding things on this topic very easy because it's known as fake news, or what's the other one? Misinformation. It's known as misinformation. So YouTube specifically shuts down this sort of information, doesn't it? That's why we keep getting shut down. A lot of our episodes, like today's episode, might get shut down for 2 days as not copyright, as dangerous misinformation, and I might have to tell YouTube it's not, and then they'll allow it. And
years ago, you would be able to type in something like this, and it would come right up. But nowadays, if you type in anything that is related to the flat Earth at all, you could type in the name of the channel, the exact title of the video, and you could click search, and it still would not come up, or you would have to scroll through pages and pages and pages.
Well, that's a bit weird, actually, because I'm able to type in her exact name of channel, and it comes straight up. So I don't know if I believe her, but I'll have to take a word for it. Maybe it's because she's using DuckDuckGo, and it's a rubbish, it's a rubbish browser.
In order to get to it.
Joe, can't lie, I'm not big on Genshin, but that's fine. I do appreciate, you know, I'll be straight up about it. What I'm trying to do on this channel, on our channel, is to create a variety of content and bring in people from different areas. You know, I don't want to just be a one-trick pony. Genshin won't be forever. You know, it can't be. It's a 4-year game plan. The actual game. We're on year 2 of the game, but it's different from other games. It's really interesting to me. But, you know, in 10 years' time, if I'm still playing Genshin Impact, I might think, hang on, something's gone wrong here. And I think all the people that play it should feel the same. You know, we should all accept that what we did 10 years ago is not the same as what we do now, and we can move and change. But I want to create this, you know, bring in people from all different places, and we're all people at the end of the day. So if you don't like Genshin, don't worry. You might see a few extra Genshin videos this week and next week, but that's just to get us back to rights so that the balance sits better, so we're not backed up in terms of Genshin. Yeah.
And instead, you'll just be bombarded with videos debunking it or making fun of it. So
I'm not making fun of you here. I want to make that clear. I do sometimes take the piss out of you, but I'm not here to rip you and to make fun of you and to like be mean to you on the internet, Shelley. What I'm here to do is to poke through your strange construction of the world. Like, your construction of the world is like, it's fragile like wet tissue paper, and I'm here just poking little holes in it, trying to save your kids, trying to do the best thing for your kids, because somebody needs to.
So I do have to give credit, though, to Feed Your Mind. They are the channel that I first came across this theory of what I'm going to go over with you today, if you haven't ever actually thought about what the Northern Lights are before.
Well, I kind of thought about what they were when I was a kid, and then someone told me. I didn't really understand it, and then I got a bit older and I understood electricity a bit more, and then I kind of understood it. And today I read it on the internet, and it was a really clear description. I thought, actually, that kind of makes sense. I haven't really put 2 and 2 together before in my mind. I sort of accepted it. But because we did the Tesla episode on our channel, we did an episode about Tesla and free power. If you scroll down, you can find it, or a better way to find it is to go on our channel videos and just search Tesla like that, and it will come up. There it is. Tesla Tartaria free energy. We learned all about electricity, so now I know a bit. Now I can sort of put 2 and 2 together. Yeah.
So in the book of Revelation,
in the book of Revelation. Wait, this is a problem to us, isn't it? Because they don't even accept exactly who wrote Revelation, do they? Who wrote Revelation? Written sometime around 96 CE in Asia Minor, the author was probably a Christian from Ephesus known as John the Elder, according to the book. This John was on the island of Patmos and not far from the coast of Asia Minor, because the word of God and testimony of Jesus, like, they don't even know for a fact who wrote Revelation. And Revelation is predictions about the future when Jesus comes back and there's an Armageddon. Now, you've got 2 problems here, Mary. Shelley, you got two problems. One, you don't believe, right? This is really important, Shelley. This is really important. Shelley's beliefs, as explained to us in a different video, are that the world, Jesus came down from heaven. He talked to everyone. You know, you've got it in the Bible. You've read that. You know what's going on. That's in the bank. That's safe. That's yours. Keep that. Take that home. That's in the bank. That's safe. But do you want to gamble? Cash money round. What happened next was Jesus came right back down. We didn't have 1,000 years, 2,000 years like we've had waiting for Jesus, praying, when you come back, Jesus, when you come back, can you please bring me my I can't find my left sock. Can you please find my left sock, Jesus? We're doing 2,000 years of that, waiting for the chuffer. He ain't coming back. He's already been back. Been back day one, came back 2 days later, whatever. And they started the millennial rule of Jesus. This is what they believe. I'm not shitting you. The millennial rule of Jesus Tartaria. This is what they believe. Question the narrative, look. If I click the top one that comes up, who's this? Who's this? It's no place like home. So Google does bring it up. So she talking shit. She talking shit. Look, she's getting a Jesus advert on her channel. She talking shit. It did bring it up. This is your theory, look.
About that a little bit. But we're going to just talk about right here. This is what will be considered the short season.
So look, this is her timeline. Jesus' death, then bang, Jesus is straight back. Early kingdom, middle kingdom, late kingdom. They built everything. The saints built everything. The Statue of Liberty, the whole shebang. And then there was a mud flood, a great reset. Jesus and the saints go up to heaven. The devil comes down and he changes history, and he makes us think that all this other stuff, the history that we know and love, is the reality. He makes us discard this millennial kingdom of Jesus. Remember this, right? Remember this. You had to ask what the millennial rule of Jesus was. This is it. It's happened already. We missed it. We've missed the boat, love. We're here now, fucking 300 years after, being confused by the devil, digging up buildings out of the mud. That's what they reckon. We've discussed it in different episodes. So has she, right? So how can she also believe in Revelation? The book of Revelation, describing what's going to happen at the end of the world. It's already happened. There's no revelation to come. It's been revealed. It's already happened. It happened in her timeline. It happened down here at the start of Jesus' death in her timeline. So don't start quoting Revelation to me like it means something in our world. That's all old history. It's all old hat in your timeline. Or the other option is it's just a load of bollocks written by some chuffer who might or might not have been off their fucking head. You know, some of the things that it predicts, like the 7 giant trumpets blowing in the sky and the 7 seals being unsealed and rivers of blood, and like, you know, these things haven't necessarily happened. I can't remember the blood turned rivers and blood. But let's have a look at some of the horrible things in Revelation. Revelation, blood, rivers. No, see, I type all the different words instead of. The third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers and springs of water, and they became blood, for they've shed the bloods of your saints and prophets, and you've given them blood to drink as they deserve. And I heard the altar respond, yes, Lord God Almighty, and just are your judgments. The rivers are not blood. I would have spotted it. Right, anyway, carry on.
You're told, let me just read this to you. After these things, I saw a door standing open in heaven. I heard the first voice like a trumpet speaking to me.
It's funny as well, like a trumpet speaking to me. I don't know if you've ever been spoken to by a trumpet, but they're not very easy to understand. The 7 seals might have been 7 chakras, maybe. Or maybe they didn't know anything about chakras or have any concept of it, and they just come up with an idea, and then, like, you know, it just happens to have the 7 in it.
It said, come up here, and I will show you what must happen after this. Instantly, I came under the Spirit's power. I saw a throne in heaven, and someone was sitting on it. The one sitting there looked like gray quartz and red quartz. There was a rainbow around the throne, which looked like an emerald.
Right, the throne of God now. Now it's the throne of fucking God. It is strange to me, actually, that other religions corroborate a throne of God. It does actually a little bit, you know, in the light of what happened to Salman Rushdie, I'm not going to eager to chat about Islam, although I've had some quite spiritual leanings towards Islam. Like, it's got the same problem of book written by apparently God this time, actually not changed over the years, not translated, not changed, but, you know, there are some issues within some of the concepts, but they've also got the throne of God. God sits on a throne in Islam as well. That it's all the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The throne is said by various holy books to reside beyond the seventh heaven. So it's right up there. It's beyond the seventh heaven. So if you did have a throne of God, again, if you did have a throne of God, oh God, not even going to, the satanic verses. Does anyone want to talk about, no, I'm not going to go Salman Rushdie today because anyone could come for me. Let's just leave that. What I did want to say though is the throne of God is a concept, and the concept is that it's right up there. Let's have a look at 6 facts about the throne of God here from a different religion now, but you know, they corroborate each other because they're Abrahamic religions, don't they? In fact, Islamic religion, they say that the Bible is not completely bang on. We're not going to read it as if it's the word of God, but there are interesting stories about the Son of God and the dealings of God. Like, they don't say, no, fuck that, Moses didn't happen. No, fuck that, Jesus didn't happen. In Islam, they say, yes, they happened, and they're great prophets, and we believe in it. So they've got their own stories about it in the Quran, which kind of like corroborate certain aspects. So that's interesting in a way. But they talk about the throne more extensively, and the idea is that it's like right up there. His throne was over the water. He wrote everything in the book. Above the clouds. Like, you're not looking at the throne in the sky. This is what I'm trying to say to you. Like, the throne is above, and from it springs forth the rivers of paradise. You can't even see the paradise in the sky, let alone the throne. Like, the throne is so far up there, you ain't seeing that in the sky. So if you think the Aurora Borealis could be the throne because of this combination of things, there's a description of emerald rainbows in this Revelation passage. There is some light in the sky. I mean, you've seen rainbows before. Maybe they're the throne of God. No, again, if you could see it in the sky, I don't think it can be the throne of God because it's got like too close and it's not like majestic enough to be the throne of God. Maybe. Why a throne does God need to see? I don't know. It's one of those things. It's in both. It's in all of them. They describe it, and she's going on about it now. I'm saying even if it exists, I doubt it'll just be up at the North Pole, just up there. I think it might have to be a bit further away and a bit bigger and a bit more majestic. And I think a bit of green light. You know, oh look, the Aurora Borealis. I think I'm opening so many windows now. Hang on, let me close. I've got more windows than Buckingham Palace, mate. The Aurora Borealis. Can't even spell now. Aurora Borealis. I mean, I did go to school, so I should be able to shit this. Images. That, as nice as it looks, right, as nice as it looks, and it does look pretty nice, it's pretty interesting, isn't it? It's pretty nice, but the throne of God itself, I'm not buying it. It'd have to be a bit more impressive. Wouldn't it? It'd have to be a little bit more impressive than that to be the actual throne of God. Don't you think? Because otherwise it's just a bit of wispy green light. And like, I've got a green light here. Like, I've got lights. Very human centric. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I think you're right. It's God needing to, yeah, God is God in our image, or are we in God's image? Question the narrative. Because don't doubt God. If you question the narrative of God, then you're right in trouble. God's going to be cross. I'm not talking specifics of any religion, although I am talking specifics of Jesus, aren't I? Because remember, she said she had her doubts, and I said Jesus at the very start of the episode didn't want you to have doubts. In fact, he'd tell you off, you're naughty.
So let me go back to this. A rainbow around the throne that looked like an emerald. There is much speculation in the Christian truther community that the throne of God actually sits directly above the firmament at the North Pole. So what you see here is a model. I believe it is from testingtheglobe.com, which was the late and great Rob Ski.
Okay, I've got one little problem here. It's a nice model, but what's it sat on? What?
Buzz website, and he actually came up with a model of the biblical earth looking like a footstool.
A footstool?
And it's based on the verse, thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build unto me, and where is the place of my rest?
So apparently God said, the heaven is my throne, so all of the heaven, and the earth is my footstool. The world is my ashtray. I'll just quickly show you this, because I get, you know, my brain and tangents. The world is my ash. I was into DJ Food, right? DJ Punk Rock, sorry, not DJ Food. I was into DJ Punk Rock, and I went and got this album, and then he played Reading. This is in the 90s, and I was like, this is fucking cool.
Chasing that A and want to save time.
But I don't know if it is cool. I haven't heard it in so many years. It just popped into my head, so maybe it's still cool. Let's check. This will definitely get us copyright strikes. Yeah, it's still cool, yeah. The world is my ashtray, that's called. Anyway, the world's my footstool.
So it tells us that...
The world's my bonket. The world is my poufet. The world... not being rude, in England we use the word poof as a derogatory term for homosexuality, but also poufet is like something you put your feet on. It's like a... Not being derogatory. Like we call it a poof. This is what I mean. One of these, you know, like these, like, and you put your foot on it, and like, you know, it's like a footstool, but it's actually like comfy, like a small chair or a stool. Like it's a poufet. Poof. Pass the poof. So
when
God's made a
throne,
poof,
the earth is his
and we're it.
footstool. So there is much speculation that the throne of heaven is actually sitting directly on top of...
No. How can it sit directly on top of the footstool? This would have to be tiny. And the word, like, see how she doesn't even make sense in her own mind. If this is the case, and we are going to say this is Yahweh's terrarium, and he's made a footstool, and he puts his feet on it, then God's feet are massive, like, we're underneath them, God's sitting off over there somewhere. And this is just the footstool. He's not tiny sitting on the top, is he?
Of the firmament right in the center at the North Pole.
No.
And I want to show you an interesting... passage that I found today. Now,
Look, this is that. Do you know when I said, look, she's got on the same website as what we just been on. What's my history? Where's my history? Pornhub.com, no. I don't watch pornography on this computer, thank you very much. What does the Bible say about doubt? That's what I asked for, didn't I, earlier? Let's have it then. History, where is it? I asked the internet, what does the Bible say about doubt? Where is it there? And it brought up this website, top website, first website that comes up. So I looked on that because I'm just lazy. I was just, you know, using it for my quick fix on my stream. She has got the same fucking website up. Like, she just types something into DuckDuckGo, not Google, DuckDuckGo, and it just brings up the first thing, and she's on that. She's on that. That's the level of it.
This isn't the first time that I've read this verse, but it's the first time that I've read this verse with this topic in mind.
What does she's typed as well? Look at this. This is what makes me cross. I've said, what does the Bible say about doubt? She's typed North Pole. Well, the Bible doesn't say anything about the North fucking Pole, does it? Because the concept of a pole, like in ancient Judea, when Moses was fucking about with the Israelites and the fucking Egyptians, they weren't talking about the poles, were they? Fucking Ranulph Fiennes and Captain Scott of the Antarctic, they weren't going. No one was even talking about it. It's not really a big thing in the Bible, the North Pole. Is it? The pole, the concept of a pole, magnetic north. No, it's not really in the Bible. Anyway, to ask, what does the Bible say about the North Pole? That just shows a certain something, doesn't it? It shows a certain something. And what does it say? It says fucking nothing about the North Pole. Nothing. It says the North sometimes. It mentions the North, but nothing about the poles. Nothing. Nothing. What have you dug out of it?
So I never really noticed what it says at the end. It says, Isaiah 14:13, you said in your heart, and he's speaking to the Chaldean king, you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven, above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. Now,
we don't know who that's been said about. Apparently, God. One line taken out of context proves it.
A lot of people think that the Mount of Assembly is in Jerusalem, but
oh, there we go. So the rest of the organized church, the Mount of Assembly. Remember, stay with me for this, because we've got another video immediately after this, which is her telling us about homeschooling your child. So we're going to have to see these two things in context. The Mount of Congregation in the Old Testament is supposed to refer to the place where God met the angels in the uttermost north of the third heaven, first and second heavens being Earth's atmosphere and outer space respectively. I'm not really sure about God meeting people in outer space in the Bible. I don't remember that happening. The prophet Isaiah. Oh, it's Isaiah. Well, we looked at Isaiah. There's two different Isaiahs. There's the original Isaiah, who was like a prophet, like Jesus or Moses or, you know, Muhammad, peace be upon him. Like a prophet, someone who apparently had the word of God to deliver to the people. And the first Isaiah that rocked round was useful socially at the time. And then there was like 70 years, 80 years, and then there was a second Isaiah, and it was actually more likely somebody else, and they made it up to control the populace. And the two Isaiahs have different sort of themes running through them. We looked at this, like the first one was a bit more peaceful and the second one was a bit more rules about society. We can't guarantee what Isaiah said is actually, you know, we've been through this, we can't guarantee what Isaiah said is actually the word of God or anything, but there we go.
That Jerusalem is actually south. So where would this be? The north. There's other speculation of where it could be, but there are some people who believe that it could actually be at the North Pole. And, you know, there are a lot of questions about why are we taught differing things about the North Pole. I did a video on it before.
I don't remember us being taught different things about the North Pole. What I would say is she's kind of like going through this weird process here of like, she's like a religious archaeologist, revisionist, and she's like got a bee in her bonnet, an idea, right? The North Pole. Oh, it looks a bit like the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights could, you know, I remember a passage in the Bible talking about the emerald seat of God. Right, let's just rah, and then we're in it now, and we're like, anything that might possibly come to help us and our idea, we'll pull that in, and it doesn't. It's like you're reaching here, you're really reaching, but she's trying to construct an argument, and it's like, how is it that over all these years of people bothering God, how after all these years of people reading the Bible and getting on with all that, and all these years of the Aurora, how she's the first person to put 2 and 2 together and make 5. She's the first. It's like some super god genius, and the rest of us, or them, or whoever that's into this shit, has not put these 2 and 2 together, not figured it out. And Jesus had come down and told everyone his stuff, and Moses and everyone, they've all told everyone what they wanted them to hear. Jesus never mentioned this. Why wasn't Jesus on this? Like, she's better than Jesus in explaining the workings of God to us. Don't worry if you didn't understand every word in the Bible, because she is better than Jesus about explaining the workings of God to us, the common people, because we thought this was just some lights in the sky caused by the, you know, photonic induction of particles through magnetism, and magnetism is kind of electricity. So we thought that, but no. What it turns out is that we were all wrong, including all the archbishops, including all the popes. The Pope himself has not spat this chat. She's better than the Pope. She knows better than any of us.
Some people were taught that the North Pole had land. Some people were taught that the North Pole had ice. Other people were taught that the North Pole is just nothing but ocean. And from what I understand, you cannot directly fly over the North Pole.
That's ridiculous. Of course you can directly fly over the North Pole. Don't be fucking stupid. I mean, what do you mean from what I understand? We'll do it on Flight Simulator, but that's only a simulation. But flying over the North Pole. Let's just have a look at it on YouTube. Why planes fly over the North Pole but not the South Pole? Special polar flight flying over the North Pole. Alright, this is actually just a video. Now, you might not believe it. It's possible that's not a video of flying over the North Pole. That's Idris Elba on the beach. He gets everywhere, doesn't he, these days? You know, I did enjoy The Wire. I did enjoy him in The Wire. I don't enjoy him on every fucking advert that I ever have to watch, ever. Leave me alone. Right, this is another advert. I need to get an ad blocker. I do apologise. I am a streamer and I am beholden to this sort of stuff. Berlin via the North Pole, organised by Air Events. Now, you might not believe it. It's up to you. But you've got a choice of believing what one woman says, what a woman says, this woman in America with her funny ideas, or you could believe these people who are actually flying a fucking plane and all the passengers who have got vested interests in the North Pole. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they didn't want to fly over the North Pole for any special reason. Maybe they're just trying to get somewhere. But I think these people are interested. And so they've flown over it. They've got their altimeters. They've got their photographs. The weather was good. They've got their maps. Some people live quite close to the fucking North Pole and they fly little aircraft. This is a bigger aircraft. There it is. It looks like a load of ice and nothing, because that's what you'd see. That seems about right. There's not many other places in the world where you could fly over a landscape like that, to be honest. So, you know, this seems about right. I'm willing to believe they've flown over the North Pole. I'm more willing to believe that they have than believe this woman telling me that no one can. It blows my mind. I've been spelling something for years, and oh no, don't worry, like, about spelling and pronunciation. I might be wrong. We can all say things a bit different. That's fine. I think that's fine. Then? Like, except as some things like the letter H is the letter H. It's not H because you want it to be H. It's H because it is H. But if you say H and I say H, like, you know, well, it's not such a big thing. It's just pronunciation of vowels. We have different accents.
Well, that's certainly an interesting question. And it brings you again back to this one, to the Mount of Assembly in the far reaches of the north. And I do have to say, above the stars of God, I will set my throne on high.
Above the stars of God. Okay, that's quite good. Above the stars of God. That's what it says there. We've got that. We're nailing that. Let's have another look at, oh, the Aurora Borealis. We've got a problem. The stars are behind it. There's the light and the stars are behind it. So it definitely can't, if you're going to put your throne above the stars, this emerald stuff can't be the light surrounding the throne, because it's above the stars, not, like, you contradicted yourself again, Shelley. Again.
Will sit on the Mount of Assembly in the far reaches of the north. Well, you can't get much farther north than the North Pole, am I right? So.
I don't know. Are you right? I mean, in our heliocentric model, possibly. In our, you know, heliocentric model, I don't think you can get much more northern than the North Pole. But in a flat Earth, is the North Pole even north? It's more like the centre, isn't it? Like, they look at this map here is actually a, they think that's something that's been constructed for flat Earth, but actually that's something that scientists use to navigate things so they can see the whole world at one time. It's actually, like, distorted in different ways to fit on this shape, but to them the North Pole is bang centre, isn't it? So I suppose you could get more north than just the middle by going up high, maybe? Like, what's up compared to north? I don't know. It's a bit of a strange question, isn't it? It's a bit of a strange question, but that's the way she thinks the world is, and this is why she's got problems with it.
If he wanted to go to the North Pole, and he wanted to elevate himself above the Most High God, and if he knew that this was the place where the Mount of Assembly was in the North Pole, that would certainly be the place to go. Now, I also just wanted to go over an...
But you'd have God's feet on you, because you'd footstool.
Interesting thing. I decided to look up the Mount of Assembly. And this
okay, well, enough of this now. Enough of this. We're not going off from one to the other. I'm not getting distracted. That's what she says about the North Pole. Do you want me to debunk whether the North Pole and the Northern Lights, do you want me to... Look at that, loading like that. That's how the internet used to work. Oh, bless. Except it used to take 40 minutes. I'll tell you a funny story. A little break, little tangent, funny story. Little Scotty Hottie, 14 years old, 13 years old, got the internet at his dad's house. Got the internet at dad's house. Didn't have the internet at mum's house. Had to go to my dad's house at the weekends, every other weekend. Could play on the internet. And one night I said to Dad, look, Dad's going to bed. Can I stay up and play on the internet? And I'll go to bed at like a couple of hours. Can I just finish my game and what have you? And he was like, yeah, whatever. Just, you know, turn it off when you go to bed. And I did one of those where I stayed up all chuffing night. And as the sun came up and I heard people wake up, I thought, shit, I'm supposed to be in bed. Turned it all off quickly and ran downstairs to bed. And then Dad came down and woke me up. And I was like, oh yeah, I've just woken up. I'd better get up. But that night I was on MSN chat. Do you remember MSN chat? You used to put ASL. Used to put ASL like that. You type that in chat, and what what you're asking is age, sex, location, and so I would have put like 13, no, 13 male, and then England like that. You know, you only have my username was Zerio, and we'd be chatting on this MSN chat, and you don't have any pictures, right? It's just chat. It's like being in this chat room, but with no, like, you wouldn't have believed it. You wouldn't have understood. It was bizarre, and you just all be chatting. I got chatting to someone called, I remember it very well, Elfin Mia, and she said that ASL. She said that she was like 14, female, and America. And I was like, ooh, hello, got myself an internet girlfriend here. And so I spent like an evening chatting to, and a night time chatting to Elfin Mia as a 13-year-old, you know, like, oh, got myself an American internet girlfriend here. And she actually sent me a picture, and I didn't send her a picture because I couldn't, because I didn't have the facility. But she sent me a picture, and what it was like a driving license picture. So it did make me think at the time, this is a bit weird to send me like proof of ID. And years later, I think it was just some weirdo. Like, it obviously wasn't a 14-year-old girl, was it? Now you think about it, it probably wasn't a 14-year-old girl. But this picture loaded on the screen, and I remember it took like fucking hours to, because, you know, I wanted to see what she looked like. So I waited for and line by line, it loaded on the screen, and it took fucking hours. And I, you know, after I'd seen like the top part of her face, I was like, oh, seeing your top part of your face. And like, yeah, it was just like that, the old internet. Anyway, that's a story about the past. This is a story about right now. Right now. Do you want me to debunk the Northern Lights? I don't think you do you? I don't think you need me to. I think most of us, oh look, Genshin Impact. I think most of us would accept that if I just type into Northern Lights explained, I think most of us would really accept that it's a property of our atmosphere. You've got a magnetic field. Tiny image, that's the best kind, tiny. If you could make them tiny for me, then I could show them on my internet page. Electrons and ions. Electrons hit the air molecules. The molecules are excited. They give off light as they calm down. The magnetosphere. I mean, it seems a bit complicated. It's physics, and I'm not going to get too deep into it because, like, I think it just makes sense. I think it does, bearing in mind what we know about electricity. There's a lot of, you know, information about it here, and you can learn that in your own time if you really want to go deeper. You know, you can find that on the internet. You don't have to have me explain everything. Yeah, she was 34, male, Canada. Exactly, she definitely was, yeah. And she wanted a picture of me, no doubt, but I never sent one. So she never got me on the hook. And I never got to go on the internet again for an extended period of time during that year. So I never got to continue the conversation either. After the phone bill came round. Anyway, you know, do you need me to, you know, am I the science man who explains the Northern Lights, an interaction of solar, wind and Earth's magnetic field? I don't think I'm the qualified science man to do that. But I think I know enough, and I think we all accept enough. You tell me in chat, if anyone in chat wants any more debunking of the Northern Lights, you tell me. I'm going to treat you with the respect you deserve and assume that you also assume that the Northern Lights are explainable through physics and have been for years. Yeah? Right. So, this is the next video. Because this Shelley at No Place Like Home doesn't just do bizarre conjecture and conspiracy videos. She doesn't just do resets, mud floods. She didn't just ask, she did ask, how did they make a globe if they couldn't fly, if they hadn't seen the world? She did ask that. She doesn't just, you know, do this weird stuff. She also teaches, she keeps her kids at home. She won't let her kids go to normal school. She keeps them at home and she teaches them at home. She's got like several kids. If you go to her community posts here, right? And she started putting a lot of memes recently. But if you go to her, look, these are her homeschooled kids. That's her child she's put on the internet there, a photograph of. There's another one of her children. I think she's got 4 kids because sometimes you see, there they are, look. It's all different kids. Sometimes they're mixed with other kids, but quite often it's, you know, her kids that she's putting pictures of on the internet. She's taken a few of them down now after I critiqued that. She's taken a few of them down. But yeah, pictures of her kids on the internet there. So she's doing her own schooling at home. And she also makes these videos about homeschooling. So if you think she's probably the right person to listen to, maybe you should start listening to her. Let's see what happens next. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame, yeah. It's a little campaign I want to start, which is to... Now, I will actually say, before we get into this too deep, before we get into this next video too deep, I will say, I don't know about America. I'm not in America. I don't know about your public schools in states and systems, I don't know. But I assume that in general, it's probably better to get a generalised education from a public school system. Where have I put my stuff? I'm such an idiot, man. I lose things on this desk. Have I lost that on this desk? That can't be right. Literally just had that in my hand. Ah, there it is. Dropped it on. If it's not on the desk, it's on the floor. I don't know what goes on in American public schools, so it might be there's some bad news in American public schools. You know, it might be there's some bad edges, some harsh edges, and it might be that it's not all good. You know, it might be that the public school system needs a bit of work. I don't know. I'm not there. I do know about British schools, and whilst you can get bullied and, you know, you might hate this teacher and like sometimes, in general, they're things of the past. And in the main, the modern schooling, which I don't even recognise because it's changed so much in the 30 years since I was there, no, it's getting better. They're always trying to make it better. And I know teachers who are committed and passionate and wonderful people. And I'd rather leave my children, which I don't have yet, but if I did, in the hands of those people than try and figure it all out for myself. And I think there's an element of socialisation that's important. So you tell me in chat. Video's able to maintain smooth stream, mate. My kilobytes are fine, mate. Don't tell me that, YouTube. Don't tell me that. It looks fine to me. Looks fine to me. If you have any problems, tell me in chat. But yeah, I don't know, but I think in general, I'm going to say that public schooling is good, and the other option, staying at home with this woman learning about the throne of God, might not be.
Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today I just wanted to bring you a quick video to talk about a topic that I think is pretty important, and it's something that can affect a lot of us homeschooling parents. And it's this: when your homeschool becomes more about you than your child.
She says from her YouTube channel about her. That's not just about the homeschooling, that's also about her and her funny ideas. Because schooling and education are two different things.
We homeschooling parents have heard it all. We have to hear every homeschool myth that is out there over and over and over again. And one of those myths that we hear quite a bit is that parents are not educated enough to homeschool their children. They're just not qualified. And
see, that's a bit unfair, isn't it? Parents are not educated enough to homeschool their children. Ridiculous. Some parents clearly are. Some parents are qualified teachers, for Christ's sake. All parents, no, definitely not. Definitely not. School, general, you know, teach them how to walk, talk, the ABCs, don't bang your head, put that down, take that out of your mouth. Yeah, to parent your children, yes. Qualified to educate, no. I'm not qualified to educate. I'm a qualified fencing coach. So if you want me to teach your child sports, I can do that. But if you want me to teach your child Shakespeare, I probably would fail in some areas because I'm not qualified. It's not just the qualification, it's the deeper knowledge. You know, I don't know exactly which things I need to do in the right order to educate because I'm not qualified. See what I'm saying? So there is something there. I think there is something there. I think that's a fair way to put it, isn't it?
it's simply not true, but I'm not going to get into that today because you know what? I've gotten into that in many other videos, and I will try to find them, and I will link them in the description box if you wanted to check those out. But I wanted to talk about what can happen from parents who listen to that too often. I know how frustrating it is to have people tell you that you just aren't going to do a good job raising your own child.
Oh, whoa. I think you'd do a better job raising your own child if you weren't trying to teach all four of them the entire school curriculum at home. I think you'd do a better job. So I'm not dissing you on raising your child. Go ahead and love them. Go ahead and cook them their dinner and, you know, clean their faces, tie up their shoes and make sure that they feel confident and calm. Yeah, do your best as a parent. But burdening yourself with their education as well, that's a bit of an issue. That's why we have an organised education system, because it turns out that parents find it quite a struggle just doing the parenting. So, you know, I'm not dissing you on raising your child, except if you want to pull your child out of school and teach them everything at home, then I'm going to question that. Just on general principle.
especially not raising, but homeschooling your own child.
Oh, homeschooling your own child. All right, yeah, no, I do think you're doing a shit job of that, yeah.
Especially when you can see the fruit of their education blossoming from what you've been doing with.
From what you've been doing. The fruit of their education blossoming from what you've been doing. You're confused. Not very good grasp of English there. Fruits don't blossom, flowers blossom. Blossom and bloom, don't they? Flowers. And then fruits ripen. And from what you've been doing with the fruits of the blossom education, blossoming from what you've been doing with them.
And unfortunately, that can bring a pride response in a lot of us. And what can end up happening is that we become so desperate to prove ourselves, to show everyone, to show the world that we can and will do a great job educating our children.
Well, that's a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, she's describing the idea that you want to prove to the world that you're doing a good job educating your children. That's silly. You won't have to, because your children will prove it for you, won't they? Because they'll be balanced and well-mannered and well-versed and like little geniuses. Oh, God, I worry.
That our homeschools might eventually morph into being more about us than our children.
Well, look, they are about you, because it's your decision to homeschool. It's your principles to homeschool. It's your strange ideas about the world that have led you into homeschooling. It's your opinions on school. Whatever happened to her at school, she thinks is going on in the school. That's why she don't want to send her kids to the school. But her children haven't necessarily gone to school and said, Mommy, I don't like school for this reason. Oh, have you? Okay, well, I'll take you out. Like, it's got to be about you and your decisions, because you're the one making the decisions. Some of your kids haven't even been to school, so they don't know. They can't choose. You're taking that choice away from them, and you're making it about you.
And I actually have one personal example
So now we're straight into about you, aren't we, Shelley? Straight into about you, your own personal example. One of the things that does my fucking head in is when you get these people in the world and their favourite letter of the alphabet is I. They start every sentence with I. And you sit and you listen to them, and I think this and I think that, and I've been doing this and I've been doing that, and I want this and I want that. And you think, fucking hell. Like, have you never heard of the letter U? Try starting your sentences with you. Do you think this? Would you like that? What about your feelings? You know, you might learn something about the world instead of just telling everyone what you think all the time, spouting off about you. Yeah, here we go. So don't make this about you, Shelley, but let's see how, with your manic stare, you can start making this about you.
Actually did several years ago, just to give you just a picture of what this can look like. So there's this great book, and it's called How to Teach Your Children Shakespeare. Right,
I don't know why you'd need how to teach your children Shakespeare. Number one, aren't you supposed to be a pretty good home educator? That's the whole point. If you needed to buy this book, you're in a shitter, because you've got your children at home, they're having trouble learning, and you're buying books to try and help you. You're already failing. You should have known how to teach the kids first, been confident about your abilities before you decide to homeschool, shouldn't you? Like, for the 9 months you're pregnant, for that first child, you'd have been buying all the books then. You're probably less likely to be buying them during the process of their education. And oh, turns out I've been doing this wrong. Oh, sorry, love. Like, the older one's going to be thicker than the younger ones because I fucked up with her. But I'm getting it better. I'm getting better. You surely, you plan and prepare. But no, anyway, you're going to be teaching your children Shakespeare out of a book. So, and that's not the Bible. That's not the Bible. I don't know why you need that book. Why don't you just ask the Bible how to teach them? Surely the Bible's got the answer.
Now, that is a great resource for any homeschooling family or any family in general.
It's a great resource for anyone, yeah, how to teach children Shakespeare. It's a good idea.
Who would like to teach their children Shakespeare, who maybe wants to go over the plays.
Shakespeare's not just about the plays. I come from Stratford-upon-Avon. I'm going to get a right chip on my shoulder about this. But Shakespeare, as we all know, because we've all done it, haven't we? This is something that unifies us all in the Western Hemisphere. We've all studied a bit of Shakespeare. We've all watched his films. He didn't make any films. They did it after he was dead. They got the rights after he was dead and made them. But you've all watched the films, haven't you? Like, chuffing, like, don't tell me that you haven't watched the films. Like, we know Shakespeare. My parents could and would never have taken me to Stratford or London to see Shakespeare plays. Fair play. Why would they? Did they have something against Shakespeare? Did they, or is it just because some people? I get that some people don't like. You know, it's forsooth and for they, and I can't understand the words and it's boring and it's a play. I get that. You know, general. You know, people think that, but that's irrelevant these days because you don't have to go to Shakespeare to the theatre to watch it. You can watch it in the movie theatre with Leonardo DiCaprio. Shakespeare's transcended culture. It's transcended culture, like. And the allusions to Shakespeare and the rhythms of Shakespeare are now in all of our culture. The iambic pentameter, the concepts of storytelling, that you know, the heroes and villains, and a lot of Shakespearean concepts, you know, just are in popular culture, and you kind of can't get away from it anywhere, in a way. You went with school. I went with school as well. Yeah, I went with school. Even though it was just down the road. As an adult living in the town of Shakespeare and the RSC, I've only been to that theatre a few times in my life. It's not a regular thing that we do. You know, normal people like me are not really desperate to get down the new season of the theatre, but some people are, and they're down there. You know, even today they're down there now. But you know what I'm saying? Like, Shakespeare's pervasive. You don't like this is why I thought it was so good at the start of today's episode in chat. I'm going to scroll all the way back to what was it? Now is the winter of our discount tents, and you know, we were talking about, that was Shakespeare, wasn't it? We were having a joking chat about the witches, and Hamlet, wasn't it? That from Shakespeare 3 witches. Macbeth, what am I on about? The Scottish play. Of course it is the Scottish play. So, you know, we were making jokes about how this joke has permeated through culture at the start of today's episode. So Shakespeare's something that's just like, it's part of humanity these days. It's kind of hard to say, you know, you can't say, oh, I'm going to learn Shakespeare because I want to go over the plays. It's not about that. It's about, I want to learn Shakespeare or read Shakespeare, and through the process of education with a teacher, actually start to understand some of what's going on, so that I can then go, oh, actually, that's just like this thing. And we use that in today's world, in this thing. And that film that I really like, oh, that's based on it. For example, The Taming of the Shrew and 10 Things I Hate About You. Like, it's so common these days that, like, something like this movie, 10 Things I Hate About You, is actually The Taming of the Shrew. And if you didn't know The Taming of the Shrew, then it's just gone over your head. But it's still there in culture. You know, it's still a modern movie, and like, we're still working on Shakespeare these days. And also, on top of that, you've got this other thing about studying Shakespeare, which was the things Shakespeare coined, invented, we say today. So learning Shakespeare can teach you about how the language was formed, and about how we now use language, and about the whys and the wherefores and the do you mind if I don'ts. This is a list of the words that Shakespeare invented. Manage settings, reject all. These are words that, commonly used words that Shakespeare created. Look at them all. Loads of words. Pious, pious, obscene, assassination, apostrophe. It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. And look at all these things that we say today that Shakespeare sort of invented. Fight fire with fire, faint-hearted, good riddance, heart of gold, set your teeth on edge, fair play, foul play, makes your hair stand on end, green-eyed monster, turning full circle, come what may, for goodness sake, the game is up. Like, so many things that Shakespeare said for the first time, or took and put in his plays, and like, we now have as our mode of conversation almost. And so to know it, to see it in action, to watch those plays, to read through them, and then on top of that, right, so that's language. So on top of that, you see, this is why Shakespeare is so useful in school, is that it's a teaching tool that can bring out all this other stuff, right? So on top of that, Shakespeare teaches us about history. Shakespeare history, because like, he did the Henrys, the Richards, he did Julius Caesar, You know, things like, you know, the idea that Julius Caesar got stabbed in the back by Brutus, the Ides of March, beware the Ides of March, the die is cast, all this stuff, that's all from Shakespeare. It's the history, and he put it in a play, and now we all know it. Like, it's like, so it's the history as well. And there's something more to Shakespeare that's on top of that. He invented words, it was language, it was history. It's also social history. When you learn about Shakespeare, the way they speak the words, the things that were a bit different, the fact that men were allowed to act on stage, but women weren't allowed to act on stage, so the roles would have been written for men to play as women, all this sort of stuff. You learn about social history. Then you start to learn about architecture, because the Globe Theatre in London, the Globe Theatre, which I think burned down in the Great Fire of London and had to be rebuilt, was a unique. Like, when she's like, you're talking about theatre, I don't want to go to the theatre and learn boring Shakespeare. That's boring. I was talking about it earlier, wasn't I? I was saying we don't all go to the theatre as normal people. Well, back then, normal people did. And it was like your cinema or your whatever. You stood up. I've been to the Globe Theatre in London. It's different from the RSC in Stratford. At the RSC in Stratford, you dress nice and you speak nice. You don't cough during the play, and you behave, because like Prince Charles goes to the RSC. It's the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, and everyone's prim and proper and posh, and you know, it's top-notch Shakespeare. This was how it was really done. They'd all just pile in, 2 groats a ticket. They'd all be talking and yammering and yelling. The woman would come out on stage, and all the people, hey, show us your tits, and like, it was like you know, a bit more of a free-for-all. It was in the middle of London. Common people, everyone enjoys a play. You go down the play on a Friday night, you know, and it was playing to those people. So there was violence, and there was drama, and there was romance, and you had comedies, and you had tragedies, and when you understand all this, you start to understand something about the nature of the world of its day. And that's what Shakespeare was talking about in his plays, the nature of the world and the nature of humanity. So when you get plays like Othello, which talk about racism, you know, famous Othello, and we're talking about Shakespeare, so you can, I want to, you know, shout in loud words, like, you can sort of fuck off with your, like, Shakespeare's not relevant or important. Like, Black Lives Matter, well, Shakespeare was talking about it back then. You know, you get ideas about disability. Actually, my brain, is it Richard III, or in one of the plays the lead role is disabled. If I do this, look, disabled actor RSC, because it's recently happened that for the first, yeah, it's Richard III, for the first time in a long time, or I don't know, I'm not an expert on first times or long times, but Richard III, the character is written as having I'll just say disability, I won't say anything negative, although it's written to be negative. You know, it's an issue that the character has that they have to overcome and live with, and for them it turns them into a bit of a bitter and dark character. So traditionally that character, Richard III, has been played by some of the top, if I put Richard III or just put Richard III, isn't it? You'll see some of these, you know, it's all of the, oh, there's one. Is that Nicolas Cage? You'll see a lot of top actors have played Richard III in their time. That's David Tennant. And, you know, they play the role of somebody who has been disabled or disfigured. Now, it's been a big news story recently. They've actually decided, look, fuck that. We'll have somebody who's actually got a disability to talk us through this human process and play the role. And, like, good on them. That's going to be really interesting. You know, I would actually like to go and watch that. Benedict Cumberbatch did one. There you go. See, you know. And the fact that you know that doesn't mean that Shakespeare's shit and that we shouldn't ignore it, does it? It means that Shakespeare is alive and that it's part of our culture and it's important and it's still relevant, and you can learn so much about life and everything. I can't even begin or end what you can learn about with Shakespeare. Do you know what I mean? I don't even begin to what I know, the only thing I know off by heart is I was in a Shakespeare play at school once. It hath in solemn synods been decreed both by the Syracusans and ourselves to admit no traffic to our adverse towns. Nay more, if any Syracusan born come to the bay of Ephesus, he dies. His good confiscate to the Duke's dispose, lest the sum of 1,000 marks can be raised to quit the penalty and to ransom him. And it doesn't mean really anything. But what I learned about it was that these two places were like loggerheads back in the day, Genoa and Ephesus, and that when people would go, you know, and mix, they'd have these problems. And basically he's basically been arrested because he's from a foreign place, and you have to pay this sum in order to save your life. And then, like, you know, the play goes on with all this other stuff. But you know, I learned a bit about that, and through that I did. But it's a useless thing to know and learn a bit of Shakespeare. That's not what it's about. It's not about learning a little quote. It's about understanding the world in all its richness through this prism, which you know how a prism splits light, and then you see all these different, you know, it's only white light going through a bit of glass, but all of a sudden it's red, and it's a rainbow, and it's green, and it's, you know, the colours, yellow and purple and indigo, you know, the colours, and blue, and I think I've done all the colours now, have I? You know the colours. So all that richness is what Shakespeare is, yeah? All that richness is what Shakespeare is, all that richness. And you don't know what you're learning. At the time, you think you're doing a boring lesson on Shakespeare at school, and you've got your book and you're reading your little bit. And we did The Taming of the Shrew, and it taught me about sexism and women's strengths and how the world used to view them. And don't talk to me about fucking, you know, lionesses. The Lionesses recently won the European Championships. It was a brilliant moment. It was a beautiful moment to see this. After scoring the goal, she whipped off her shirt to emulate the celebration of an American footballer who had done an American soccer player who had done the same and made history. They all told her, the American, they said, oh, she shouldn't have took her shirt off. She, you know, sports bra, she shouldn't have took her shirt off. And she said, fuck you. You know, fuck you, the men do it. I think this was wonderful. They won the European Championships. They're heroes to me, the Lionesses. You know, fuck your sexism. And then recently in the news, Graham Souness said that it's a man's game, and it's good to see it back to being a man's game, when he was watching a men's game of football. Oh, man's game's better. Like, fuck off, Graham Souness. It's not a man's game. It's not a woman's game. It's a beautiful game, and they highlight the beauty in their passion and struggle and success. So I'm going to get emotional, but don't tell me about sexism without mentioning The Taming of the Shrew and the struggles of Kate, and the concept that a woman should be seen and not heard, and that she should put up with a man's boorish behaviour, and that she should be an object for a man to marry and have. And like, don't tell me that you can discuss sexism these days and ignore everything that went on in Shakespeare. Oh, if you don't understand it, you're missing it. Go and watch it. You can see it in the cinema, you can see it on video, you can see it in the theatre, you can see it. Oh, there's so many ways to enjoy it. It's a comedy of sorts, but it talks about some really deep, interesting things. Don't tell me that, you know, you can have today's world without Shakespeare, and that you can understand it fully and deeply and with passion and joy, and that you're getting everything without Shakespeare, because you're not. You're missing something. You're missing a squeeze of the sponge, a squeeze of the orange. You're missing a flavour in the cocktail. You're missing a colour in the rainbow. You're missing something. It's beauty, it's passion, it's light. So question the narrative. I would question you when you're questioning why people would want to learn Shakespeare. I've just told you why.
Or just have a genuine affinity for his literature. I got that book not because I had an affinity for Shakespeare, because I'm going to tell you the truth. I only ever read Shakespeare in school, and I never really liked it very much.
Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You didn't like Romeo and Juliet. You only read it in school, and that you're a liar. You're a liar. Now, you didn't have to read it. Like, to read, I'm going to use read in a wider context. To read a text, to, you know, take it in. My reading of this film was that, you know, you don't have to read necessarily with words, and to read a text, take it in. So I'm going to go with a wider context there that she might not understand because, you know, not worldly. But don't tell me you didn't enjoy Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. Don't tell me that. Go and fuck off. Don't tell me you've not seen it. Go and fuck off.
However, I wanted to get that book as a status symbol to show other parents what a great job I was doing, that I was teaching my 7-year-old Shakespeare.
Oh my God, so the kid's 7, so you've got 7 years of life so far. I don't know whether it's the oldest or the youngest, but it's kid 7, and at this point you're still fucking up well bad. You haven't got your grips with what you're supposed to even be doing. You're trying to show off. And if you wanted to show off, you'd teach your children well, so that they were well-mannered and well-behaved, and that they had good ethics, and that they would, when it came to, oh, do you want to add up the bill for us, little Timmy? And they can do it. And, and if you were to throw that over there, what's that parabolic arc that's happening? Tell me about that, little Timmy. Or, what's the Aurora Borealis? And they could tell, they'd show they would speak for you. They would, like, you wouldn't have to show off as a teacher. The children and their successes and their opportunities that you've given them through your breadth of education, and they're going on and doing it. That's what would show off for you. So what a mistake to make. You've really got confused. But she's admitting that this was a mistake at least. So
in reality, what it really was.
In chat, I think everyone enjoys the stories, but the language is difficult for kids. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely true. But that's why you need to read it a little bit in school, have someone work through it with you a little bit, because it actually becomes quite clear. Like, they didn't change the language for this film, did they? They kept it the same, didn't they? They kept to the Shakespeare, because you fucking have to, because it's Shakespeare, and it wasn't confusing. It was actually really easy to understand, set in a more modern context. So, maybe a bit of help with it, a bit of help. That's like teaching, isn't it? So, yeah, I agree. It's a bit difficult sometimes, and you read it through and you think, what? Hang on, I don't recognise that like exact structure and style, and I don't recognise some of the things that they talk about. But when they're explained to you, oh, that means a sort of mug, and therefore he's having a joke about mug being your mug, and he's playing on words there. You go, oh, I get it now. And then when you get it, then you can have jokes like we did at the start of stream about witches, and now is the winter of our discount tents, and you can have those further jokes in the world because you are now like part of it because you've learned. So
I was teaching my children how to memorize passages from Shakespeare.
Why the fuck were you doing that?
Which is cute, right?
No, it's not cute. It sounds like some kind of horrible abuse. All the reasons I wouldn't want to send my child to a public school. Oh, they bully you. Oh, you have to do what they tell you. Oh, you have to learn by the rote. Oh, you're not free to learn in your own way and your own this. What were you doing with your 7-year-old, forcing them to learn passages from Shakespeare? That's beyond a 7-year-old, to learn by rote passages from Shakespeare. Nobody in the public school system is doing that sort of thing. That's horrible. Why were you doing that? You've got it wrong.
You have your children come into the living room while you have company over, or you might take your children somewhere, and you can say to them, hey, tell grandma what you learned in school today.
Tell grandma what you learned in school today. They won't be able to tell you what they learned because they didn't learn anything. You didn't do all this wider stuff because you don't like Shakespeare. You're not into that shit. So you don't know all that wider stuff that I just described. All the passion, all the language, all the social change, all the ethics, the justice. You can't take Richard III and use it as a teaching moment about disability and conflict and internal struggle, and you can't, and how the world perceived disability of the time, and how disabled characters were and weren't able to act. You can't go anywhere near any of this stuff because you don't have it. You don't have it. So instead, you're forcing them to rote, parrot fashion. That's archaic. That parrot fashion stuff is what, like, in Shakespeare's day they used to do in school. Learn your Latin, amo amas amatis amant. That's that. And you're making it happen because you don't have the other stuff. So, whoa, I'm really disappointed there in you, Shelley. I'm glad you're admitting it's a mistake. And if you can admit that was a mistake, maybe you'll understand that what you've continued to do in other ways is also mistakes. What you've continued to do is to make more mistakes. Oh God, I shouldn't get my grammar wrong, should I? I'm only human, and thank God I didn't have to sit at home with my mom, like, trying to teach. Like, imagine if she tried to teach me everything. My mom had to go to work. I tell you what, I lived in a single parent family, and my mom had to go to work to be able to afford to pay for things for us. So when I got home from school, like, I came in with the key, and it was just me and my sister, and we'd, like, make ourselves a bit of tea. Maybe sometimes we'd go and meet Mom. She used to work at the college, and then we'd hang around there for a bit after school, and then we'd come home. She got a business degree, my mom did, while I was learning. It's going to make me feel a bit emotional now because I'm so proud of it. I thought that was amazing, and I got a good education because of her hard work. Like, she didn't have to pay for my education. I got it free because that's our system in the UK, but I got a good education, and she worked really hard. But, you know, Shelley here sits at home and makes the children learn Shakespeare, and like, she, you know, I think it amazes me as well. I'm a little bit emotional here, but it amazes me that she's got the opportunities that my mom didn't have, obviously, because she can sit at home with her kids. So just love them. Just be with them as a mother, and, you know, do that, and then send them to school for the schooling. And leave that to the school, and you do your good job, best job as a mother. I don't know why she wants to fuck it all up.
Can say, I know a bank where the wild time blows.
Oh yeah, my mum worked hard. She worked at the college, like with a job at 9 to 5, and she did a degree in her free time after. So some nights she has to go to night school as well, and raise 2 children. And it wasn't easy, you know, it wasn't financially easy. So, yeah, like, yeah, I think those sort of things taught me a lot as well, to be honest. So I won't go on it. I will start to cry if I go on too much about this. So I'm disappointed in Shelley that she's missing the trick here.
Where oxlips and the nodding violet grows, and go on and on and on with whatever passage they have memorized from Shakespeare for that day. And that's awesome, and it can look quite impressive.
It's not awesome or impressive. Like, children can memorize things. I just think it's a horrible thing to make them. Like, I know people who, like, children who actually acted at the RSC. They learned all of the words for the whole play. Like, they were on it. They were in it. Yeah, but if they're not into it and you're making them, it's not that impressive, is it? Children can learn things by rote. I got you stuck off the realness. I'll be the infamous, you heard of us, official Queensbridge murderers. The mob coming equipped with warfare, beware of your crime family who got enough shots to share for all those who make your profile of pros, rot your brain with your nose bone. Now, I can learn things by rote. Like, yeah, a Moamas a man, a Marmis a Martis a man. Kids all over the world have been doing that for years. They learn the Quran word for word in Arabic countries. Doesn't make them geniuses. It just means they've been bullied.
But behind the scenes, I wasn't reading Shakespeare with my children, and they probably had no idea what anything meant that they were reciting. They were just doing it because I thought that it was a great way to show people what my kids in school were doing.
Wow. I'm glad she's prepared to admit her mistakes here. Please, Shelley, consider that you could still be making such big mistakes right now. You know, it might be that you've not finished making mistakes. At the start of this video, you doubted God. Sorry, at the start of the other video, you doubted God, didn't you? And it says definitely not to do that in your reading of the religion. So you're making mistakes all over the place, littered with mistakes. We're only human. You make mistakes. Send your kids to school, please. Wow, obviously that's a bad, you know, and her kid was 7 when she was doing this. She was making that, she had that frame of mind when her kid was 7.
Or in homeschool we're doing.
I don't think she's escaped that. Honestly, I think this video is a sort of, I think she makes a lot of these videos to sort of prove herself on the internet. Exactly what she says she's not, this video is about not trying to prove yourself on the internet. But why have you got this fucking, you know, great big channel all about having to try and prove yourself? Remember what I said about preschool and entering the next phase of homeschool and, you know, proving yourself on the internet. I think that you're still mixed up in it a bit, trying to show off that you're doing it right. I've got people telling me, I've got comments. We'll look at the comments in a minute as well, because the comments are interesting. Fucking hell are the comments interesting. But these people are like, you know, sucking her off on the internet. So maybe you get something out of it. Maybe you need a bit of positive feedback, because maybe she's not getting it anywhere else. Because any normal person like us would look at it and say, what the fuck are you doing? You believe that the Aurora Borealis is the Northern Lights, is the colour around the throne of God, which, because the earth is a footstool and God puts his feet on it, and that's up there where God is. And yeah, we're not going to do Shakespeare today, kids, because I've got something better to teach you.
And, you know, that is one example, because instead of doing things that my children were interested in, or things that are actually going to have value and that will actually help them in the long run. How
does she know what has value and help them in the long run? How does she know? I would argue that she doesn't. I'd argue that she doesn't. On this community page here, she posts these memes and stuff, right? And there are some things that that really I found a bit confusing on here. There was one about maths, so I'm going to try and find it about maths. Although she does post some of them and they disappear. She's posted some of them and they disappear because she doesn't want YouTube to shut her down with the... She did post one. It was like, why bother teaching children complicated maths they'll never use? I replied to it. And I said, because it will give your children opportunities. They might want to become engineers and they might want to become physicists and they don't know that. So, you know, you need to teach them all the different aspects of mathematics so they can use that as a framework to understand the world. And she said, yeah, but some children, she replied, yeah, but some children don't want to become physicists or engineers. But you don't know that about your children until they're about 19 when they can make those decisions. But until then, you need to give them all the tools so they've got all the opportunities. Hello, MM. It's all about her, not the kids. You're right. This video is called When Your Homeschool is More About You Than Your Child. And she's trying to say, don't make it about you, make it about your child. But yeah, I agree with you. I think this looks like it's more about her than anything else. It's more about, I'm making it about her. Certainly I am. And you're talking about stuff in chat as well with each other. I can't pick up on everything, but you know, I agree with your general points here, yeah. And it would be nice if we could have a bit more care from our society so that parents could take more time with their children. I think that would be good. And that includes, I got a mate and he works all the hours God sends to provide for his kid. And like, that means he's at work quite a lot. Like, it includes giving parents a bit more leniency. Like, why should we be don't get me on my high horse about the electricity bills in our country. That's by the by, but let's just, like, you know, say I think that we should allow parents more time with their children, and it's okay if the billionaires and the billionaires and billionaires put a bit more tax up for that.
I was having them memorize passages that they had no
Hello, Rudy and the dogs.
interest in at all whatsoever, just so that I would look good to others.
Rudy and the dogs, what we're doing today is we're looking at There's No Place Like Home. She's a wonderful homeschooler who believes that God sits above the earth on the Aurora Borealis, which is a signal of their throne, and also that you don't need to teach your children Shakespeare to prove anything to anyone. And then we've got a big announcement coming up at the end of stream today about Steve of the Dead, which hopefully is not me blowing my load too early, but will make sense. So here we go.
Because, yeah, I was trying to fight off the stigma of being a parent who was making the wrong decision for their children by keeping them out of school.
You were trying to throw off the stigma of being a parent who is making the wrong decision for their children by keeping them out of school. So she's aware of the stigma. Now, I don't know. I mean, this is a very difficult thing, right? I don't have... Right, stigma, a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality or person. The stigma of having gone to prison will always be with me. I don't have a stigma about homeschooling. I got a couple of friends who did homeschooling. I'm sure, I can't remember who it was. I'm sure I had one, because I can't really know them, because I never saw them every day, because I was at school. But I'm sure there's a kid in our village that was homeschooled. I don't have a stigma against it. I'm sure that kid, his mum was a teacher. I'm sure she was. I think she was a university lecturer, and she, you know, had a child and decided to homeschool. In fact, I know another person that was homeschooled that was from a different culture. One of my friends from abroad, and it was more normal there. And I think again, their mother was an educator, or it might have been someone else. Anyway, see, I don't know them very well because I didn't meet them every day because they were at homeschool. But I don't have a stigma against homeschooling. What I'm doing is being open-minded about this woman and her views on the internet, and I was introduced to them because we're originally interested in that Tartaria and the mud floods and question the narrative. And this is the woman who thought that an anthill was a melted building. She's got monetized all the videos. I don't know how this video gets monetized and not demonetized. I don't know how this video gets monetized and not demonetized. It's bizarre, actually, isn't it? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Skip your monetization. She thinks that is a melted building. It's not. It's a geological formation from basalt rock, which forms in these crystalline forms. We looked it up and found it out. But she thinks all this rubbish. Like, she honestly thinks all this rubbish about melted. She thinks they're melted buildings. We watched her videos. That's how we met her. Is because we're into some of these videos where people think a load of rubbish and we tell them why it's rubbish.
Might think that maybe this was carved, and other people will tell you that no, this is actually another petrified titan. You can see the ear in here. You can see the eye in here. And I think that when he did the analysis on this, I believe he was pointing out how intricate even the eyes were on that.
That's a petrified titan. She thinks that's a petrified titan. Yeah? So then when I found out that she was homeschooling, oh my God.
As if that's really a bad thing. But, you know, that can also look some other ways. I just have some other abstract examples for you. These aren't particularly things.
Is this when religion gets dangerous? Is this where religion gets dangerous? Because we think about, you know, we talked at the start, Salman Rushdie recently stabbed. I don't want to say something bad about Islam because, you know, someone might, you know, do a bad stabbing. Yeah, absolutely. You know, religion can get dangerous, can't it? It can get violent and dangerous. Is this also a way of religion being almost violent and dangerous? It's not violence, is it, to cause your children to be neglected through your own negligence? I don't know. But, like, message retracted, so I didn't delete that. I didn't have a chance to read it, but I didn't delete it, so I hope it's not being retracted because of the auto mod. Sometimes people say their messages get deleted. If you just deleted it yourself, that's fine. We're not here to discuss Tartaria today, but I understand we bring people in from all over the different things, and some people in Tartaria don't believe one thing and the other. That's all good. You know, we discussed those in different videos. This one particularly, she's particularly on all this stuff, and she's a homeschooler.
That I've done myself, but I know that these things happen because it is so important that you remember that the reason that you are homeschooling your children is for their benefit. It is not to make you look good. So, you know, if you have a 5-year-old...
Actually, I'll reiterate, it will make you look good if your children turn out to be really well-balanced individuals who have like a broad education that allows them the platform to take on any challenging task. And when they decide to focus and specialise, maybe go to university, get a degree, that they then excel in their chosen field. And then even later in life, if they decide to, you know, take up the flute or start getting into theatre, then they've got all those background knowledges and bases to touch from that they can draw from. You know, that's about what it's like being a broad and well balanced human being in today's world. And it's everything from mental health understanding to financial understanding, isn't it? There's all sorts of things that education covers, and your children developing into those people would be the thing that makes you look good. There's no way of looking good as a teacher until those children develop, because that's the proof of the pudding is in eating the children. The proof of the pudding is in eating the children. That makes sense. But you know what I'm saying is you can't say, oh look, because they quote Shakespeare, I'm a great teacher. It doesn't. That's a weird way to look at it.
You don't have to go out and buy...
You're right, Rudy. Lots of damage is being done by truthers, misinforming people, yeah. And I don't know if this is one of the problems with that whole thing, I guess, like, is when we try and discuss it sometimes, like, there's quite a lot of... It's like a big spectrum of ideas, and there's a big spectrum of people that believe a lot of different things from the ideas. So I'd agree with that, Rudy. And I think that's one of the problems with people getting lost in it as well, is that, like, for every one thing that someone can say, no, look, I can prove those rocks are not buildings, I can prove that's not a melted building, then you can go, oh yeah, okay, forget that, but what about this? Like, there's just like so many fucking things. We can never pin one thing down. I'm not going to go too far into that now. I've got an episode to do on a particular Twitter account that I want to bring to us. But yeah, I think that's I think that's actually, though, as well, right? One of the things that's being done to, like, it's damage done by truthers, you would say, yeah, because they're damaging the truth movement. But in actual fact, as well, it's a way of protecting themselves by diffusion of ideas. It like puts up a smoke screen around them, and it cushions them against any criticism, because if any one thing is proven to be bullshit, they've got like this other load of other shit that they can then start leaning on instead. And you might think, oh, these are not real truthers because they're damaging the movement, but in other ways they're individuals who are protecting their own interests and trying to confuse as many people as possible with as many different ideas as possible. Widens the net with how you can confuse people in order to gain their support. So, you know, it's a complex thing, yeah.
8 to 12 textbooks for your kindergarten. You don't have to go out and buy 8 to 12 textbooks for your kindergartner.
Well, That's silly, isn't it? We know that there are different stages of child development, so you're not going to be trying to force 8 to 10 textbooks down your kindergartner. However, I did have a maths book, an English book. I had a words tin. At about that age, I had a words tin. We had a tin with words in, and you'd like learn to read them. It's time for you to go and do your words tin with the teaching assistant, and you do your word tin. We'd have a little maths book where I'd be doing my maths puzzles, and we'd have a story book where we'd write little stories. We had different books and learning aids, but also you wouldn't have to buy any of that if you sent them to school, because like they just have them at school,
so that you can brag to your family members about all of the different subjects that your 5-year-old is doing, or so that you can go on Facebook and list their curriculum of all the different.
Hang on, this feels like right. This feels, I'm going to get a bit psychology now, so that you can go on Facebook. I think she's seen someone on Facebook promoting their other business. I'm a homeschooler and my children read Shakespeare, and she's there like, oh fuck you, I'm the best homeschooler and you're doing it wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's not about me, it's about the children. Yeah, but I don't like these other people who are going on Facebook say, like, she's got to be talking about a specific here, hasn't she? Go on Facebook and list their curriculum. Oh, someone's trying to prove they're the biggest homeschooler. You don't have to do that. I'm a better homeschooler than you are because my children don't read Shakespeare. Your children aren't better because they do. It feels like there's a bit of a chip on someone's shoulder here.
Is doing, or so that you can go on Facebook and list their curriculum of all the different things that your 5-year-old is doing. Because I'm going to tell you what will happen.
And it's obvious, isn't it? Like, no one gives two hoots about what someone, like, it's more important about your kids. It's obvious that you don't need to be proving to the world by like making your kid do calculus online live, isn't it? It's obvious that
your 5-year-old is not developmentally ready to do that much sit-down learning.
No shit.
And so what is going to happen is that you are going to burn that child out very quickly.
Well, you're not going to, I don't know about burn them out, but you're not going to make them happy. It's going to make them feel bad. And that's their mum doing that to them. So no shit. Like that. Well, she made a video about that. Don't try and teach your kids don't try and teach your kids calculus on day one of homeschool when they're 7 years old, folks, to try and prove something to the rest of the world. Don't try and make them recite the Bible so you can post it on Facebook, because, that's bad homeschooling. Well done.
And you are going to impede their learning just so that, once again, you can prove yourself and you can look good to others.
But in a way, what you're doing now is making a video to try and prove to others and look good, but by not teaching them Shakespeare, by not doing certain things, it's okay. In fact, I'm not impeding their learning, but I would warrant you are impeding their learning. And I'll tell you what, if you've got 4 different kids at 4 different levels and there's only one of you, how the fuck are you going to do that?
By just saying, well, my child is doing this, and this, and they're not doing any of these things in public schools. Look, you don't need to compare your homeschool to public school. I think that most people would acknowledge that public schools they're not worth anything. Right.
You had an open house for your boys' mates. You had one under your ward for a year after running away from it. That's really noble and good. Yeah, well done, historian. 10 points for me for that. His parents refused to allow him to become a computer programmer. That's what I mean. She's one step further than that, which is that she's not even going to show you the computer. She's not even going to it's too complicated. You don't need to learn that. You're better off just fucking running around in the back garden with your bat and ball. Right? Are you having fun playing archery? I can't really teach you about parabola, but have fun with your bow and arrow.
Right now, and I don't think that they ever were, but they're.
She thinks the public schools are worthless. Now, this is one thing I did ask, and Snips put a little comment to say, it depends on where you are in the States. I don't know if public schools in America are brilliant or shit. I don't know. But I do know that a facility dedicated to education, where you're with your peers, at least, in a group of peers, where there is an oversight, there's some sort of oversight, a board of education overseeing what goes on, where there are ever-changing and more modern ideas happening, where I'm sure that if you ask even me with my super duper hat on, Scotty Hottie, I'm going to say, I've got Genshin. See, I'm an idiot. I've got Genshin Impact money spent on the screen, and I didn't need to have that because we've not been playing Genshin Impact today. I'm an idiot. But yeah, even me with my super duper hat on, Has the music finished? No, there's still more music. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it, Genshin Impact? Even with, I don't think that I'd be capable of teaching 4 different children at different age ranges in, you know, different stages of education, all the different subjects of a curriculum at all. I'm not claiming that I'd be able to do that. So I think I'd have to lean on the public school system in favour of failing my children completely at home.
Are getting worse as time goes on. So just stop. Stop trying to compare what your homeschool looks like to school, because this is the trap that you can get set in, is you can start morphing your homeschool into not being about your family, not being about relationships, not being about giving your children a true and genuine education, but being another way for you to make yourself look good. Now,
I'm a bit confused about those things that she said that school was about. Morphing your home to school into not being about, so these are the things that it should be about, right?
Not being about
So you can start morph school into not being. It's a bit of a funny sentence construction here. Like, you know, she's using negatives, but not being
about your family.
About your family. Now, forgive me for saying this, but I'm not sure my school was about my family, and I'm not sure my homeschool should be about my family. If anything, I should be removing those. I don't know. Am I wrong here? Am I wrong? I mean, I'm not trying to create a good homeschool. I'm saying go to fucking school. So, but there's an issue here, because if it's about family, then you're my teacher, but you're my mom, and I'm a child, and I'm 7 years old, and I have to try and, you know, differentiate between those two roles, and I can't, and nor can you. And at some points I need my mom, and at some points I want my teacher. And imagine you're at school, right? Imagine you're at school and you're learning physics, and your mom's there. Like, doesn't that change things? Like, imagine you're not at school now and you're at home and your mom's there and you're supposed to be learning physics, but you want to watch Peppa Pig instead. I don't know if it changes things. It being about your family is not what homeschool is about initially, is it? You've got the family, that's taken for granted, that's in the bank, that's yours, that's safe. But you've got this idea that you're going to be homeschooling. First, I think personally, my first thing on my list would be educating my children. Learning education, the education bit. What happens when she has PMT? Asks and control historian. Exactly. What happens when my mom, like, you know, feels sad about me because I'm upset and, you know, sad, and decides to feel compassionate towards me, when my teacher instead would say, look, what's wrong? Are you all right? Do you want to go and speak to the school counsellor? Can we get on with the maths test? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm not saying that I was always feeling good when I was at school. Maybe some extra compassion thrown my way from the teachers would have been better for me. I don't know. I certainly had problems with my feelings at school. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I totally did. But I also got a really good education. So I don't know where I'm saying send your kids to school. That's where I'm saying. PMT, premenstrual tension. I'm not being sexist, but, you know, it's when you ladies have your periods and your emotions start to bubble to the surface more often. I think that's a fair thing to say. I don't want to sound sexist or, you know, patriarchal, but it is an issue, isn't it? Like, that, you know, if your mom is your only teacher and, like, she's in a bad mood, what are you going to do? Like, what if you put your mom in a bad mood? Like, when you get to school, your teacher doesn't know about that. They just teach you. Like, what if you've been naughty that morning and you go to school? The teacher just teaches you, but your mom might be really cross all day, so it might be an issue.
Not being about relationships.
Not being about relationships. Well, it's hard to make school about relationships when you're at home and you're just with your children, isn't it? Because they're the relationships that you cultivate when you're at home with your children. But what about the other relationships that school is about, like peer-to-peer relationships? What about relationships between yourself as an individual and authority, which I'm discussing here just briefly, but I didn't enjoy the authority of my schooling. Some teachers wielded their authority in better ways than others. Some teachers wielded their authority in worse ways than others. And I was sat on those fucking steps in detention, and I was there after school in detention, and I was always in trouble. So I had, you know, don't tell me about school and say, oh, school's some fucking walk in the park, you're going to enjoy it. Yeah, I get it. You know, I was in that headlock once when that kid punched me. my friend threw up all over the hallway after he ate that weed. I didn't, but my friend ate a block of hash and he threw up all over the hallway. You know, all this shit went on at school, and like there was so much trouble. So one of the days I had to sit outside the classroom because I had long hair and nail varnish. Anyway, highlights, lowlights, whatever. There was relationships happening, being made, being understood, being worked through. My relationship with authority was being worked through. I discovered sword fighting and fencing because our school had a fencing club, and it took me to becoming the world. I went to the world championship. I didn't become the world championship fencer, but I went to the world championships. Like you'll be seeing the running on the telly, you know, athletics and all that. I went to a competition like that, the world championships fencing, and I was in the British team, and I was captain of the England team at one point, and my coach taught me more in life about life than I can never put across to anyone how important that man was to me in my life. And the process of learning to achieve and discipline and like all of that was an extra club on the side of school. That was an extra club on the side of school. The most important thing in my life. Yeah, Shelley's, you know, the relationships we develop at home are maybe slightly different. Oh, you did foil and sabre. You missed out on epee. I did sabre. Yeah, fuck epee. Jumping around for 10 minutes and then poking someone in the foot. Fuck epee. Sabre's where it's at. You cut, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean. Chop, chop, chop. Run, run, run. Hack, hack, hack. Smash, smash, smash. Yeah. I won't go on about it too much, but you're right, historian. I'd get a detention for missing detention because I was doing another detention. That's what I used to do. Oh, your youngest did it as well. Your youngest did it. I used to do it. I used to get a detention. I was so scared to tell my dad that I'd got a detention that I wouldn't tell him. And then my option was go to detention and then not be at home, and my dad's going to go, where the fuck are you? Or go home and then the school are going to go, where the fuck are you? And I'll say to the school, oh, fuck, yeah. You're in detention again. And it kept going on until I got a letter home. And when I got the letter home, I couldn't avoid that. I arrived home and Dad said, what are you doing here? And I said, I've just come home from school. And he said, well, you're supposed to be in detention. And then I was, oh no. And you know, all shit hit the fan. Anyway, these are my stories. I've got them because I went to school.
Not being about giving your children a true and genuine education.
Giving your children a true and genuine education. I don't know what you might, you know, I don't know where we want to draw those parameters. I think it's okay. Everyone in chat can have a good think about what they believe is important in a true and genuine education. And I would warrant that a Moa Masaman, a Mamis Man are not on top of the list. But the fact that you understand little things here and there when Elon Musk is talking about sending rockets to Mars, or when someone quotes a little bit of a Shakespeare thing at you, or you have a joke about Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo, or little things in life that make up the rich complexity of your life that were all part of your true and genuine education, and some things that you really enjoyed at school and had a great time with and became part of you in your soul, and other things that you just didn't want to fucking face and could hardly get out of bed for, and the fucking horrible people and the teachers and the bullies and the teachers who were bullies, and that's part of you too. But which part was true and genuine and which part was important, and you know, it's something we all shared. At least it's something we shared and we can share, but her children can't.
But being another way for you to make yourself look good.
And we're on about making yourself look good again in a video online that's talking about how you don't have to make yourself look good to other people, in a video online which is sort of shaming other people for Facebooking how their children are doing at school. In a way. So it's part of that, isn't it? She's involved in that. In her head, there's this conflict struggle of someone's posted on Facebook, my child does Shakespeare. I know that it's bullshit because I do a better homeschool because I don't prove it. I'm going to prove it.
Now, this is another example that I
have. This is the adverts. How does she get monetized? Right? I'm really lucky on this channel. I've got you good people here in chat. Loving how ranging we can go here at Squirrel Sniper. Yeah, exactly, historian. I think the people I gather in chat are intelligent, thoughtful people, and whether we agree on things or not is irrelevant. Sometimes we'll do topics and we won't agree, and that's fine. That's why we're gathered here, because you've got intelligent things to say about things and a range of experiences and enlightened ideas. So I think that's great. I think question things is a great place to start. We don't always come out with the same answers, but I agree with question things. So I'm questioning her. questioning her. That's her thing. She's questioning the narrative. That's what she goes on about. So I'm questioning her. I think you're right in that. And I was just going to say that on our channel, my channel, 202 subscribers now. We've gone up. It keeps going. I'm really blessed. I want to say thank you for that. I want to hit 1,000 so I can monetize. And that's my big, like, you know, if you want to write a goal on the wall where you want to get to, monetization, because I need to afford to live, and I want this to be part of it. So I'm not ever going to beg you for, I've got it on the screen, tip me if you want, but I'm never going to say to you, please beg, you know, please tip or please subscribe. I'm not going to say these things. I'll say subscribe and, you know, and all that, everyone does, but I'm not going to ask directly for anything. But I'm really lucky that number's going up. So to the moon. Yeah, it won't happen quick, it will happen steady for us, because we're not doing some explosive viral, you know, campaign or anything. We're just doing what we do and building and growing and building and growing. So I'm really lucky to see that. But it does blow my mind when she's got two adverts on a video and YouTube are fine with it. She goes on about you have to use DuckDuckGo and, you know, you get hidden and you can't find things on the internet. I found her, she's got two adverts. And she's saying, don't even teach your kids fucking basic curriculum.
Is, you know, just the picture perfect projects and the picture perfect classrooms that are on IG feeds, Instagram, if you don't know what that is.
Yeah,
now,
don't Snips, don't see that as a that wasn't a call to action to tip. Don't worry. The music makes you cross now, right? I'll get on that this week. I'll change our tippy sound, because it does start to do my head in when I scream and wave my arms, and nobody else knows what it's about. It's a small in-joke that we've got on stream, because once on a stream we heard that sound in a video we watched and we thought it was cool, so we put it on. But I got cooler sounds that we can use. Yeah, we'll switch.
You are naturally one of those people who always keeps everything perfect, and your projects always come out perfect. Kudos. That's not what people need to see, though. People need to see real everyday life homeschools.
Right, because real everyday life homeschools are not perfect. In fact, they're far from it. That's what she just said there. If you're naturally one of those people who always keeps everything perfect,
your projects
and your projects always come out perfect, what she's sort of saying is, if you're one of these ladies who's got a cleaner, who's posh, and her house is lovely, and she's got the lovely log fire, and the carpets are clean, and you can't even tell she's got children because they're well behaved and they don't fucking scrawl on the walls and they haven't got mud all up their faces. Like, you know, if you're one of these people that posts on the internet that my children are learning well and doing Shakespeare, fuck you. Real life is toys everywhere. I can't do my hair. She's got beans on the floor. She's got fucking steak in her nappy. And like, he's supposed to be learning his physics. He's out there shooting that fucking bow and arrow again. And where's the dog? And someone clean up this. You know, that's real life. That's real life if you're trying to do everything at once. And you're struggling. Do you know what? You know, I always used to think, my mom was one of these people, bless her, she wanted everything tidy all the time, and me and my sister used to make a mess, and there was always this constant like pendulum swing of tidy up your room and then make it a mess again, and what's this out here, and can you put that away, and you know, she was always running around with the Hoover and we were always, you know, eating biscuits. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I get it, life is a bit messy sometimes, but I also, and I'm not critiquing anyone here, I had some friends and I'd go to their house and it was a fucking show home. And let's be fair, I went to a school where there were some quite well-off people. The grammar school system is egalitarian, but there were some quite well off. I mean, I suppose that's cross-section of society, isn't it? Whatever. Anyway, the house was a fucking show home. The mum was at home all day. The dad was out at work. They had enough money for a cleaner as well. And it was a big house, and they had, like, you know, perfect pristine carpets. You take your shoes off when you come in. The kids, again, like I said, the kids were well behaved. They weren't crawling on the walls, and they were well behaved. It was just one of those things. Lovely. Not going to critique it. You know, it's nice for some people. On the other end of the spectrum, I've been to some houses where, like, you know, it's hasn't got a proper roof on it because it's a council house and the council haven't come around to fix the roof, so we've got a tarpaulin over this, and like the kids are literally scrawling on the walls and there is no carpet, and like, you know, what are you having for tea? Well, we'll just make it ourselves, see what's in the fridge. Do you want a cold hot dog? Like, you know, I've been at both, I've had friends at both ends of the spectrum. I'm not critiquing the other end either. You know, where's your mom? She's at work, you know, or she's struggling with this, or, you know, whatever. Like, where's your dad? I don't know. Like, you know, so we've all got different, you know, lives to live, and I'm just saying that the perfect homeschool would be nice and tidy and buttoned down, if you were lucky enough to be able to keep the fucking toys in the playpen and, you know, keep the house under, if someone gave you a bit of extra free time and money and, you know, provided a cleaner, would you go for that, or would you say, no, fuck it, I'd rather the toys were out everywhere? That's real life. Everyone would aspire to, you know, be able to pull their shit together, wouldn't they? But she's saying, no, look, because I can't pull my shit together, because it's basically impossible for one woman to run a homeschool and, you know, 4 different children at different levels of development, you know, keep all their shit neat and tidy. I can't even run a cloth around the fucking table, let alone, you know, teach you maths. She's like, yeah, show them the real life. Show them it's not perfect. I agree, the real life's not perfect. Do you want to see my room right now? It's a mess. It's a mess. I'm not some super duper perfect prim buttoned up. I'm not saying it. But I'm not running a homeschool either. And if I was, I would still aspire to... I'd try and keep that homeschool room nice and neat. I'd want my child to have, like, certain parameters they were trying to... You know, keep your writing neat, keep within the lines, keep it neat. So I'd try and keep my homeschool neat, wouldn't I? I don't know, man. Armageddon has nothing on my own. Your brother took the trash out once a week, and you did all the things, yeah. Like, I'm sure that none of us are perfect, but I'm probably on the side of the Armageddon, and they're only taking the trash out once a week. So I feel a bit bad here for you two there, because, you know, Squirrel Sniper says that. I didn't know that about the different days of the week and stuff, but it's slightly different from what I'm talking about now, so I'll maybe look at it another time. But yeah, like, I think we don't come out perfect, but I think that's okay. But I think if you're... What she's saying here is, like, grunge homeschool is better. And it's not, is it? It's not.
Kudos. That's not what people need to see, though.
She's got a chip on her shoulder because someone on Facebook has published pictures of her homeschool, and this other woman on Facebook has got lovely desks and all the pens are neat and tidy, and her kids are even wearing uniforms to homeschool, and they're coming out brilliant and they're going to university, and she's got, like, homeschool in the shed, and it looks like a mess. And she's like, people don't need to see that, they need to see the real life.
To see real, everyday life homeschools. And your projects, if they are picture perfect all the time, my question that I have to ask is, how much learning is actually happening?
Well, probably loads, because they're getting it right and they're doing it neat. Probably more than in a fucking confusion and, you know, a big mess.
How much is your child doing of that project, and how much are you doing so that you can then stage a photo, put it on your Facebook?
Oh, now she's accusing them of, all right, I just did the work for my child so I could show off. She's saying it's impossible their children could actually be that smart. It's impossible their children could be achieving in their homeschool that they put on Facebook. What a fuck it, they've got to have cheated it. Whoa. She's not naming and shaming, because she's a coward, but she's got a chip on her shoulder about someone specific here, hasn't she? And she's got a question. If your homeschool looks good, I'm going to question you, question the narrative. I think you're wasting your time, love. What you should be doing is questioning yourself and why you're not coming up to these standards.
They are picture perfect all the time. My question that I have to ask is, how much learning is actually happening? How much is your child doing of that project, and how much are you doing so that you can then stage a photo, put it on your Facebook picture for all of your Facebook profile for all of your family members to see, and then you can say, hey, look what we're doing in our homeschool. How much of that was your child, though?
Wow, that's heavy. She don't even believe, like, question the narrative. She don't believe other people's children can achieve.
And the same with the classroom. I used to have a classroom as well. And yeah, I tried to make mine look as schoolish as possible, and I always had little posters and perfect desks.
So you did homeschool, but you wanted it to be like a real school. I mean, that makes sense to me, but she's now going to say that was a bad way to do it and it was rubbish, but... Your husband hates to see the dishes drying on the drainer, so that's the only job that does itself, air drying, yeah. I'm a bit surprised that Shelley wanted her school to look so much like school at the start. Like, it sounds like she hasn't managed to maintain that, but...
The chalkboard was always nice and clean when we weren't using it. And you know what? If you start to focus, and I'm not saying that those things are bad. Okay, I have to say that. You might have a beautiful classroom. I'm not saying don't have one.
You just did. You literally just did. You said it wasn't focused on family and it wasn't focused on relationships and it was obviously focused on the wrong things. She's actually done another video in the past that said I used to have a nice classroom and I binned it off because it's wrong.
Because it can be really fun for children to learn in an atmosphere like that. But if you become so focused on keeping it looking perfect all the time so that you can just, you know, snap those spontaneous photos of...
Wait, so she's saying you're focused on cleanliness and neatness. We can extrapolate this into a slightly wider thing, can't we? We can say, look, what if, you know, your living room is a fucking mess, right? Are you going to tidy it up? Yeah. I used to sit there, I used to drink 8 cans of beer and play FIFA, and I used to eat a Chinese on a Friday night. I'd have to go to work on a Saturday. I used to work 6 days a week as a hairdresser, so I'd go to work on a Saturday, I'd come home and my fucking living room would still be a mess. There'd be Chinese out, 8 cans of beer, and before I sat down to play another 8 hours of FIFA, no, usually on a Saturday I'd be out at the pub, I'd stumble in at about 2 a.m. to this mess. What I tend to do is get the bin and I just scrape everything off the table. I mean this, everything, it would all be cans of beer, fag ends and whatever. Take the controller away, so you take the things you want to keep, the controller, the remote control, and everything else in the bin, scrape it all in the bin. You know, at least tidy up, because I don't want to live in a fucking pigsty, do I? So, like, I'm guilty of this all the time. This room is now a mess here. I need to get the bin out and tidy it up. But she's like, the reason that you tidy up, the reason you keep your house or your schoolroom nice and neat is not to show the children a sense of discipline and order, and that, you know, after we get things out, we put them away, and like not to teach them a sense of routine and rhythm, that, you know, this belongs here and this belongs here, and like, so when we get the maths books out, you know where they are, and not so that in general it's clean and hygienic and dust hasn't built up and bacteria isn't building up. Not for any of those reasons. The reason she thinks that people clean up and tidy up is so they can show off on Facebook about how clean and tidy they are, and that means, fuck you, Shelley, I'm better than you because I'm cleaning and you're not. Now, the only reason she'd feel like that is if she was not cleaning, and she's just alluded to it here. She doesn't do it anymore. She can't be arsed. So that's a worry, isn't it, chief educator?
If your children and the background has to be perfect, you're going to miss out on so many learning opportunities for your children. In chat here, Snips is saying she goes to the cleaner not as much as the tidy, and historians about the tidy, it's the tidy that and perfect that escapes me. Like, I'm the same as well, right? But I think people have different views of it. I think because I've been badgered by my mum all my life, I see through her eyes sometimes, and I've understood it through her eyes now. I'm looking around the room and thinking what my mum would think about this mess. But I used to say, like, she'd be like, "Oh, tidy this up," and I say, "I don't need to like, I'm using the Xbox, I've got the games out, I've got the controller out, I don't need to tidy it up, I'm going to use it later." And like, she'd be like, "Yeah, but put it away now." And like, to me it wouldn't look untidy, it's my Xbox, it's this, but to her it's just like this stuff out everywhere. So I had to learn to see through someone else's eyes and to realise that people had different, like, criteria for what they consider to be tidy. And like, I remember being a kid and having all my Lego out, and then not being allowed to put my cars out until I got the Lego put away. You can't have two things out at once. It starts to turn into a big mess. You know, and I never used to think it. I used to think, well, it's not a mess, that's my Lego and they're my cars. But, you know, different perspectives on it, I think. I've only just managed to really, you know, knuckle down and say to myself at the end of the evening, don't leave this place in a mess. Because that's, to me, it's only a couple of plates and a cup. But to somebody else, they've left the house in a mess. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've only just really, in the last 10 years, managed to get a hold of that. Because when you are homeschooling your children...
So I'm not perfect, but I'm not telling people on the internet that if you're homeschooling your children, you shouldn't give a shit.
It's about making...
So this is why I think maybe you should send them to school so you could have time to tidy up your house.
...messes. And it's about making mistakes.
School is not about making messes and making mistakes. At some point in kindergarten, you're allowed to play in the sandpit, but then generally you're asked to tidy up a bit. You're wearing an apron when you're doing the pottery. You know, there's some messy fun things, but you tidy up afterwards. It's not about school is not about making messes, and making mistakes is accepted across the board. We're human. I said it earlier in the episode. I made mistakes today. Making mistakes is fine. That's part of human endeavour. If you didn't make mistakes, you wouldn't be getting anywhere. Like, mistakes are part of the progress. So never ever feel bad about your mistakes. Never ever beat yourself up about your mistakes. Big ones, small ones, we all do it. We all make them, and then we all beat ourselves up about them. It's part of depression to go over your mistakes in your mind. Well, just remember that they're the things you've learned from that make you better now. So it's what you're going to do in the future. It's your future mistakes that matter. But yeah, never beat yourself up about making them, because you wouldn't be a human if you didn't. So yeah, school can be about making mistakes. It's about how you respond to the mistakes. And I would argue that just being at home and making mistakes with your mom getting frustrated because she needs to put the dinner on is different from making a few mistakes in class and the teacher then saying, oh look, I see the way you're making this mistake. I remember doing some maths and a teacher saying, all right, hang on, stop here. What about if we do this the other way around and you put this number over here and you go this way? And I was like, oh, I see where I'm making the mistake now. Thanks for helping me through that. And then I never made that mistake again, because every time I tried to make the mistake again, I remembered that teacher saying, why don't we put the number here and do it the other way around? So, you know, learning is making mistakes, but it's about being taught why you're making mistakes. Not just being told that's a mistake, do it this way, but somebody saying, what about if we do it this way? Or have you thought about this? And you coming up with the answer to the mistake yourself and seeing it and understanding it. Yeah.
And it's about making memories.
Oh, it's about making memories. Again, my school did not prioritize my making of memories. My memories were made and they had no in fact, I don't think the school did a few things that helped. You know, they put on a school play and I was in it, or they offered a fencing class and I became part of it. You know, they did a school photo every year. It was one of my memories that I was in. But you know, the school did have a sense of cohesion and community. Of course they did. But their focus was about teaching me and educating me on a generalized curriculum and specialized in places to allow me every opportunity in life to take those next steps. And bye Rudy. I hope your doggies have a nice walk. You can always catch up with this later on the old YouTube, so don't worry about that. It's nice to have had you here again, and I'm going to be back. You know, I'm in the stride again. We'll be back again coming up this week. We've got quite a lot. Got something interesting to tell you about at the end of this episode, so check back in later with what I said in the future. Wow. Check back in later with what I said in the future. Wow. Living in the future now.
And you want those to be good memories. You want them to be memories of you and your children having fun together.
At homeschool, you might. At school, I had memories, and they weren't all good. I'll concede that I had some struggles. Do you know what? It's fine, I think, in the long run, because I think it's part of a human thing that we do together, that we allow our children to grow and learn together as a group, as a generation. And the struggles I had alongside my peers. Sometimes it was my peers bullying me. Sometimes it was, like I said, the teachers bullying me. But like, you know, I had other peers who were my friends, and we made friendships for life, and like we went through these things together. So I think, you know, yeah, memories.
Learning new things together, maybe making messes together and learning how to clean up together.
Oh, now we're cleaning up together.
You don't want the memories to be about, Mom was always so worried about what the background looked like, or that everything that I did was perfect, that I never really had any fun while we were homeschooling. Don't let that happen.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're taking your kid out of school because of all your problems with school, and you're turning it into a fucking to stand here, I'm going to hit your hand with the ruler until you get it right. Of course you're fucking up. I mean, that's obvious. But she's accusing people she's seen someone on Facebook post something, hasn't she? And she's accusing them of being too perfect. And like, you know, it's making a cross because she wants the homeschooling badge.
Homeschool. And I'm just going to say it one more time. Don't worry about what other people think of your homeschool. Don't worry about what other people think of how you're homeschooling your children, or even your ability to homeschool your children. You know that you are doing the best thing for your children, and that is all that matters.
Fucking stupid advice. Worst advice in the world. If I had a teacher who didn't go to teacher training, who didn't listen to their peers about their abilities, if I had a teacher who didn't question their own standards and always strive to do a little better, then I'd have never have become the person I was. Like, all my teachers had that inherent. That's why they were good teachers. Even the bad ones had that. Even the ones that I, you know, butted heads with and, you know, couldn't get on with, even they wanted to be a good teacher and was worried about whether, you know, things were going well and they were learning the most modern techniques and, you know, imparting their lessons well. Pride in their craft. Like, Jesus. So, question your ability. Yes. improve, important, endlessly important. Like, never stop. Never stop. I remember I was naughty. Remember I was naughty? So I had to do, work experience. You have, in the UK, you have a system of work experience. So you're 16 and for 2 weeks, you're not going to school. You're actually going to a workplace and you're going to just be there and be at work. It's called work experience. You're going to write notes and do all this thing, bring back a folder. You're going to get graded on it. So, you have to do it properly. So I did work experience, except because I was naughty, I didn't bother to sort out a work experience. And it came really close to the day and I was like, I haven't sorted it. So my fencing coach, he said, you can just come with me. I work every day. I don't just come to your school and do fencing coaching. I do a lot of other work. I'm a sports consultant, fencing coach. We do other coaching. Come with me for a week and see what it's like to, run your own business as a sports coach. I look back and I think he was trying to give me the opportunities to become a full-time coach if I ever wanted. And in some ways, I wish I had followed. I kind of think that he wanted me to follow in his shoes, that he was not. Don't want to use the word grooming because it's a bad word, but he was grooming me to become a really good coach, and I was in those shoes for a while. Somebody else is the fencing master at my old class, and they are someone that I used to fence with and respect and think was a good guy. So I'm really pleased for them. But I am still naughty. Yes, I'm still naughty. But yeah, so I was naughty. I didn't do proper work experience. I went with my fencing coach, and I remember I went to his house essentially. He had this little office, and then we went to other schools and we did fencing coaching. And one of the days we were building this blade rack. He was trying to show me some skills with drills, and he was trying to give me a bit of a rounded view of being a self-employed person doing lots of different jobs for yourself. And one of the things that really impressed me, though, really stood out to me, was in his office he had all of these books about sport coaching, and one of them was about tennis, and one of them was basketball, and like he himself was doing a degree in sports coaching and psychology, I think it was. Even after I finished fencing, he carried on and did degrees and stuff like that. So he had this thing out on the computer, like his dissertation that he was writing, and it just occurred to me. I thought, I was about 15, 16, and I thought that my fencing coach was good at fencing. They'd become a coach, they knew what they were doing, so they were teaching us. And I didn't realise that behind the scenes, day to day, they were looking everywhere for information. They were learning everything they could to become better as being a coach. And I thought once you become the coach, you stop reading the books, and that you'd learn the stuff out of the books and become the coach. And that what it actually was that you never stop. You never stop. And I've took that on for me now. I don't know, I do a lot of different things in my life. I've I'm a fully qualified NVQ level 4 hairdresser who's run my own salon for years. I don't have to still do it in my life. I've sort of felt like I hit a peak there, and I want to learn something else. I learned all about the chemistry of hairdressing, the molecular chemistry that goes on in colour, and I was interested, and once I've learned it, I want to learn something else. How many of us had a parent as a mentor? Not me. There were other people who could see for me what I was. Good point, historian. Yeah, like my parents were my parents, and for better or worse, good times and bad times, they were my parents. And I'm lucky to have had parents. I'm grateful, but I would always have looked elsewhere for my role models. I mean, even my dad, who was a role model to me for a good while, became a conflict issue. And when you're a teenager as well, you don't look at your parents and say, I want to be like them, do you? You look and you say, I want to be like the rock stars, or I don't want to be like them. Stop telling me what to do, Mom. Do you know what I mean? It's like you actually look elsewhere for role models. So I think you do still, like I said earlier, being proud of my mom for doing a degree and stuff like that. You do, as you get older and more mature and wise, you do look back and say, actually, my parents were big influences and role models for me. But you sort of buck against it as a young teenager, don't you? So yeah, really good point there, like finding your mentors in other places.
You know that you are doing the best thing for your children, and that is all that matters.
Are you? Do you?
And instead of trying to prove yourself to everyone else, take your focus and put it back on your child, because that's where it belongs.
Well, what the fuck are you doing making a 9-minute YouTube video then? What are your children doing right now? Are they quiet story time or something? Where have you found the time to make this?
That's all that I have for you today. If
Go and vacuum the lounge, you silly.
you like this video, give it a thumbs up.
I don't like this video. I'm not going to thumbs down because I'm not mean, but I don't like this video. I want to read some of the comments before we finish, and then I'll tell you our big news that we've got coming up. They like this. I dropped out of high school when I was 16. I honestly believe if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have been as strong a critical thinker as I am today. Well, you wouldn't know. I was fortunate enough to be able to make moves to get my bachelor's in science later in life. Well played, fair play. I fully support homeschooling. Yep, fair enough. Now, I'm not saying homeschooling in principle is awful, bear in mind. I'm saying there's lots of issues with it, and you have to overcome them in order to achieve. And it's probably a lot easier just to send your kids to school. The earlier parents remove their children from the state-sanctioned indoctrination camps, the better, right? That's one of those political ones. State-sanctioned indoctrination camps. We don't really go that way in our UK politics. It's not as heavy as that, what we think about school. We've got a much more open and transparent system, and there's a lot less worry about state-sanctioned indoctrination, honestly. But in America, you've got this Republican Democrat thing. You know, Democrats are all about free education, and Republicans are all about, take your kids out of school because Donald Trump and the fucking New World Order. Like, there's a ends of a spectrum, aren't there? And it's different in America, but fucking hell. There was an encouragement to keep the focus correct in our home. I want to embrace the freedom I have to educate my children the way I see, and to knock down the temptation to put it on display. Instead, treasuring it up in my own heart, where I take pictures now and then, I can tell the kids, this is just my own memories. I'm not putting it out there for the entire world to see. I think we would grow in our confidence as homeschoolers if we stayed more private about our homeschools and avoided the trap of feeling like we needed to show everyone what a great job we're doing. I think this has the potential to breed insecurity and a spirit of comparing our children, which takes away from the joy of learning. Thank you for giving me something good to ponder. Interesting points. I would say that putting photographs of your children on the internet in today's day and age is a fucking worry, because there's a load of pedos out there, and them knowing exactly where your children are at any given time of day is a mistake. So generally putting photos of your children on the internet, for me, bit of a no-no, but it's a different world these days than I grew up in. I grew up with the advent of the internet, didn't I? You know, I saw it all change. So when I was first on Facebook, you definitely wouldn't want to put pictures of your children on Facebook. There were no protections. But these days, maybe it's different. Maybe it's okay. I'm not speaking for everyone. I don't know. I just worry about that. The other thing I'd say about this comment is that keeping it private, I would also worry. One of the good things about school, public school, is that it's not all private, is it? If your child was in a private room with a teacher and the door was shut and it was just them and the teacher, and no one was to see what was happening because it wasn't allowed to be posted on Facebook, hello, you don't want that happening. You don't want that happening. In fact, public attention, public perception, public opinion, public ability to view and discuss gives critical reflection, and it also prevents certain crimes from happening. So I think it's important, maybe. I mean, you wouldn't want the children should keep their lives out of the public eye. Yeah, the children would want their lives out of the public eye. That's a good point. You're not consenting to those photos. Good point. But I was also saying that whilst your homeschool might be great, somebody who's doing a bad homeschool and you can't see what's happening, that's a worry, isn't it? This one says, she's not on Facebook or Instagram. You've helped me delete all my homeschool Pinterest ideas. Our homeschool has been such an awesome journey because I never felt like it had to be picture perfect. Even on days where I felt I hadn't done enough, they surprised me with something they learned that day. We learn at our kitchen table and it's been the best experience. I mean, if you're worried that you didn't do enough and then your children said, I learned this, that's good, but I learned quite a lot in one day. And like, you come home and your mum would say, what have you done at school today? And you go, fucking nothing, it was boring. Do you remember that? What have you done at school today? Nothing, it was boring. But when I look back, I'm 48, and in today's world, my only takeaway from Shakespeare is all the world's a stage and the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. And then he lists the parts, doesn't he? I know. See that? I don't know what he lists, like the fool and the... I focus on the fool because I'm a bit of a fool, but all the world's a stage. And how did that person take that from Shakespeare? What do they mean when they say that's all they took from it? From As You Like It. Oh no, of course. What am I saying? Oh, this is one of the best. This is one of the best. See, I'm not that smart. This is about the journey of life. This is about what it means to be a human. So this is what you're missing if you don't take it in. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Bear in mind, you'd have seen this, and I'm doing a bit of teaching now. Bear in mind, you'd have seen this, right? And you'd have been at that. It was written for the common people. They're at this event. It's the theatre. They've got their tomato to eat if they're lucky, a pitcher of beer, a tomato to throw. They're all hoi polloi, all stood up. The globe. It's open air. The actor comes to the stage. Jacques talking to the Duke Senior, and he says, "All the world's a stage." It's like self-referential, and the people will be like, "Oh look." It's funny, isn't it? Because I'm here to watch this play. And the people in the play are telling me that my life and what they're doing are running in parallel. Oh, I understand that. It's a very simple statement. All the world is a stage. I take it to heart and think about it sometimes. Do you act? Are you acting? Am I now being myself? Well, this is me doing it. I'm deliberately doing it. I'm choosing to do it. I'm acting. I'm acting me. I could act quietly. I could act really differently if you want. I could act a bit more when my friends are around and my sister's there and they're all talking, I might just be a bit more laid back. I'm acting. We're all acting. All the world's a stage. And all the men, you're right, the 7 ages of man. I'm going to read through it. I will. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits. You know what their exits are, don't you? And their entrances. And one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant mewling and puking in the new. I love it. It's so visceral, isn't it? Mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then, and our school, they called the school magazine Snail because Shakespeare went to the same school as I did. I went to the same school as Shakespeare did. Mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. Then the lover sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. Then a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour and sudden, quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly, with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean... I don't know why it makes me so emotional to think of these things, but it does. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His useful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all. That ends this strange, eventful history. His second child... That ends this strange, eventful history, is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. I don't know why it makes me so... I know why it makes me emotional, because it's talking about, going through the last act, isn't it? And I've had to do that recently with my nan. So I know why it makes me emotional, and it's good to feel that. It's good to feel that because that's humanity. That's the raw realness of being a human, having emotions. So I'm happy with that. You don't get that if you just don't listen and you ignore it and you say, my only takeaway from Shakespeare is all the world's a stage, and the reply is, and we're learning how true this statement is as time unfolds. Someone's put popcorn. Maybe there were some things that were deleted because maybe someone else said something. But I don't know, man. Fuck Shakespeare anyway, eh? Down here, I laughed my butt off throughout this video. Thanks. I'm talking about the Shakespeare segment. Hilarious. From a previous homeschooling mom, I'm thankful we lived in our own little gateway for the most of homeschooling. Fantastic video, Shelley. I've required our 3 youngest teens to read 2 of Shakespeare's plays in graphic novel form so they can at least understand the cultural references made about him. Why didn't you show them the fucking Romeo and Juliet? You don't have to read the graphic novel form. You can watch the films of Shakespeare. And there's quite a lot of the modern ones. Look, Romeo and Juliet comes up quite a lot. Macbeth. Oh, Danny DeVito's Renaissance Man. It's a Shakespeare, is it? Much Ado About Nothing. 1993. So you just watch the films. They'll get the contexts. Some of them are set in modern context. Do you know what they love to do, right? RSC. What did I go and watch? Was it The Comedy of Errors? I think it might have been India. Let me just put Indian season. They did a season of plays where they crossed it with Indian culture. No, I'm not going to get it up quite easy. They had famous Indian actors in it. The RSC quite often stage a Shakespeare play. I'll just quickly find one. Modern dress Shakespeare. Like, if you don't know this sort of stuff, then you're missing out again. Like, I'm just trying to, like, there's been so many, but there's a picture of a good example. Look, that's Shakespeare, The Merry Rise of Windsor. But they're dressed up like modern people. What? What the fuck? How can this be? How can you not... in what way could I teach my kids the cultural references made about in Shakespeare's works? In what way could you think to teach them about the cultural references so they can understand them? Making them read a graphic novel? No, you're dumb. Like, take them to the fucking theatre. They make it more modern so you can understand it in cultural reference form. Let them watch the films. Let them watch the films. It's just not even... You know, just... you know, it's Baz Luhrmann, wasn't it? Moulin Rouge. Let them watch the films. Graphic novel. All 3 sons were adopted internationally. Irrelevant. Beyond that, I just don't find much value in his stuff. Beyond that, the cultural references, I don't find much value in his stuff. I was just moved to tears about the description of the degradation of the human form as you go through those final acts, about the humanity of hubris and youth and wisdom in old age, and then falling back to child. The idea that you might be born mewling and puking into the nurse's arms and finish back in a childish aspect. I'll say a bit quietly, one of my neighbours is getting quite old now and starting to you know, appear to be quite... I'm not going to go into that. That's somebody else's business, actually. It's a bit rude of me to talk about these things on the internet. But, you know, to see these truths of life and to know that we're all going back to God one day, and for it to be summed up in such interesting and witty rapport, oh, like, you don't find much value in his stuff. That was just one passage that made me cry. Like, he's done a lot more than that. He's invented words, phrases... I don't find much value in his stuff. The same holds for much of the more archaic literature. It's, oh my God. So these things do blow my mind, because archaic, very old or old-fashioned. Yes, very old or old-fashioned. It could be levelled at Shakespeare that the prose... It could be levelled at the choice of, like, forsooth and they. And I mean, I just read some of it. And it was not archaic. All the men and women, all the world's a stage. I'll stop when I get to something archaic. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. One man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. Then the lover, sighing like furnace, with woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow. Then a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard. Right, bang, pard. We don't use that anymore. It's shortened form of leopard. Archaic. Can't get anything out of this. If you didn't understand it, if you didn't read it, you wouldn't know that it wasn't archaic literature. Archaic literature to us in the UK might be Chaucer. Let's go for Canterbury Tales. I'm sure the Canterbury Tales are not going to be copyrighted. I'm going to be able to find, you know, a passage from the Canterbury Tales so that I can read it to you. This is Chaucer. This is Old English. It's how we know how English developed, because we've got these old books that we still have and they were different. This is Canterbury Tales. When that April his showers suit, the drought of March hath pierced to the root, and bathed every vein in sweet liquor, of which virtue engendered is the flower. When Zephyrus eke with his sweet swete breath, inspired hath in every holten heath the tender crops of the young sun, hath in the ram his half course he run. Like, this is more Old English, so it's a bit more archaic. Fucking ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics are archaic, mate, but I can still read this. When that April and his shores soot, I don't really know about soot, but when April's done and the drought of March has pierced to the roots and bathed every vein in switched liquor, I don't know, of which virtue, I think that's a foreign word, virtue engendered is the flower. Like, it's hard to, but you can get there, right? You can get there with an education. But yeah, this person, Maggie B, says, fuck Shakespeare. I don't find much value in his stuff. And the same for all the other archaic literature. I found myself feeling that tug to make sure we read certain books because they're considered the best by government teachers, elites, etc. Simply to make myself feel like we too are educated. Yeah, we do have that. We've got reading lists. Reading list, I'll just say, what, year 9 English, just something like that, and it should come up with a, there you go, look, there's a reading list, books for year 9, here's a reading list. So yeah, totally. These days, they're modernised, they take things out, they put things in. You're not going to see, look, this is not, because they realise, and this is education for you, when I was at school, this reading list was full of Chaucer and Shakespeare and fucking, like, I remember the reading list I got. I did go to a very strict school, you know, a very, like, you know, strict on the academia school. But I remember picking out books like Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I remember picking out Catch-22 by Joseph Heller off the reading list and saying, wow, that one was done in the 70s. So, 1953. It was published in 61. Oh, God. But I remember saying to myself that looks like a more modern book than all this other Dickens shit. So I'm going to read that one off the reading list. I read all the more modern ones off the reading list first because I didn't want to read the Dickens, but they were on my reading list, the Dickenses of the day. I did go to a bit of a strict school in that aspect, but these days, look, these are not those sort of books because they've evolved the ideas in education because they realise children are going to suffer if they're all forced to read Dickens, and it's not even that pertinent these days. And maybe if you get to like the more advanced English classes, Brave New World was on my reading list. There's Catch-22 on the reading list, look. Told you it would be. Catcher in the Rye, yep, on the reading list. So there are some, you know, some things here. Bram Stoker's Dracula, very, very good book. Not considered to be too boring for kids these days, but still quite a classic, you might call it. Fewer of the classics and more of these. There's Frankenstein, that's a classic. I, Claudius. So you've got a few of them. So the idea is that you get them into the reading list now these days with some things that they might be able to access a bit more easily and might look a bit more up their street. AI. Lydia builds an AI friend to fill a void in her life. Nothing can prepare for what Henry turns from a computer into an overprotective defender. That looks good. Every Line of You by Naomi Gibson. So maybe you get your reading list these days and you think, I'll read that one first, Naomi Gibson. And then you end up through the reading list ending up with what now seems like more classic Dracula. And you get there and you end up, that's the purpose of the reading list. And you learn a bit. Bill Bryson on Shakespeare, look. Instead of actually reading the Shakespeare on your reading list, now you're reading Bill Bryson's take on it. But then when you get into your later classes, you know, when you go into your... There's some really good books on here, look. This one I read recently, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisov. Oh my God, that is such a book. I'll tell you what I love about that book. It's only about this thin. You know when you pick up a book and it's really thin and you think, oh, that's a pamphlet, what are you on about? It's not a proper book. It's not War and Peace, is it? That book. Fucking hell. An interesting choice for detention class reading. Oh, it's a day in the life of somebody who's in a Soviet gulag. And the gulag's fucking horrible, mate. You got nothing. You're fighting over a potato. You know, it tells you something about life, that book. Oh, it's horrible. Mental and physical survival. Talk about it. Oh, God, we should look at it one day on stream. But an interesting choice for detention class reading. A more challenging book for Year 9 students. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Paddy Clark, ha ha ha. I remember reading that and crying. I remember the first book that made me cry when I was reading it was a Terry Pratchett book. At the end when I Ain't Dead. Tell you that, mate. It's still going to make me cry now. It's still going to make me cry now, but I'm not going to go over it. I don't want to spoil the book for you. And in fact, I have done, because this is the final line in the book. But, oh my God, when I discovered that a beautiful character that I loved was not in fact dead. I'm going to cry now. Like, Empire of the Sun, beautiful book, yeah. So, and Paddy Clark, ha ha ha, and Angela's Ashes, oh God. Like, so these books moved me, yeah. So, like, this idea that a reading list is rubbish and that it should be avoided because it's only a load of old shit books. It's Dickens and it's I, Claudius and it's Frankenstein and they're boring and old. That's ridiculous, and the people in the modern education world would think it's ridiculous because we're striving to make sure that children have access to a reading list that provokes and inspires and interests and draws them through into maybe slightly more difficult material that still has pertinence and relevance today. And that we bring in, that we don't just ignore the modern works and the modern ideas and what children are interested in. We use it as a pathway to more complicated things. So brilliant. That looks like a really good reading list. I'm pleased with what we're offering in our curriculum. But Maggie B says we're sure we read certain books that they're considered the best by elites to make us feel like we're educated. She keeps asking herself why I'm choosing the materials we use and who will benefit from it. It's this thing again about like the government are trying to program your kids so that like this is the opposite. Like this is the opposite. Like these ideas are about how if you don't do this, then when you come to question the narrative, you're missing something. These books are the question of the narrative. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley is a question of the narrative. And if you haven't, you're missing something. So it's a shame that these people who believe that they need the way, like the tools, this is the worst thing for me, is that I believe we should necessarily fight the powers that be in the right ways at the right times, because God damn it, look what's going on. I'm not going to get too political, but we know that Boris Johnson's not helping our kids, don't we? Like, yeah, I get that. We should fight for what's right. You got to fight for your right to party. You gotta fight for your right to party. You know, we should fight for our rights and our human rights, yeah. And I think that education is a huge part of that, and you know, it's a huge gift we give to our youth that allow them to take part in the fight, and that by ignoring these things and by choosing materials that you're not sure what you're choosing and why really, by mistaking what's good for what's indoctrination, by not understand, like The Catcher in the Rye is not like about, you know, let's all get together and be racist, is it? Like it's not about like let's have fascism. Like, you know, like when you read things like The Catcher in the Rye, you question things more. Empire of the Sun, like it's not about like, isn't it a good idea to fucking have concentration camps? Is it? That's not what it's about, is it? It's not about like, you know, isn't war good? You know, showing up to my army. So if you, yeah. So I think that the people in these comments are missing the trick. They're worried about the tricks being played on them, but because they're not engaging in education in a full and whole rounded way, they don't know. They even say it there, I don't know. I'm choosing the materials I use. I don't know who will benefit from it. She's asking herself why she's choosing the materials and who's going to benefit from it. Well, if you haven't read all these materials, how do you even choose them? I couldn't, which is why I rely on a board of education to facilitate who chooses the reading list for UK schools. Curated by teachers and librarians. That's a good idea, isn't it? Wouldn't that be a good idea? To let teachers and librarians have a say in it. I'm happy with that. I mean, it could be just like this is fake and it's the government trying to. But then the government would have to have written those books in the deep history and. Government considers reading lists for primary schools. Primary schools could be asked to teach an approved list of books and authors approved by the government. Totalitarian. Children's author criticised the book list, saying it would be totalitarian. What we need to see in schools is trust in teachers and librarians. Oh, good. Right, so we've got that, and they suggested it, and we said, fuck that, we're not having it. So it might be different in America, maybe, but in the UK, no, we're not letting the government tell us what to read. That's not what's happening. We're allowing the people who en masse teach and curate literature to have a say in it. And they're coming up with what we consider and critique afterwards to be quite a good list. I just critiqued it. I thought it was good. A lot of these things that made me, like 1984, I was asked to read it at school. It was on my reading list. 1984 was on my reading list. So you can get fucked if you think the government are trying to control me through a reading list. What would they be doing? They fucked up there because it made me cry, it gave me nightmares, and it made me think differently about the way the world is. So Johnny Rotten's a huge Shakespeare lover. There you go. You can't become a beautiful artist in today's world and sort of say, I'm going to ignore Shakespeare, it's not meaningful to me. Can you, really? It seems silly. So there we go. I've busted her. I've busted Maggie B there. You've been busted. So there you go. We get the scene, we get the system, we get the thing, Shelley. We get what you're saying. Oh, Shelley. Oh, Shelley. If only I could psychoanalyze you a little deeper, Shelley. If only I could look more deeply into your motivations and drives and create another interesting episode about something more deep and meaningful that could actually mean something to the people who do homeschooling. Hang on, wait a minute. Who's this? This is Steve of the Dead. I've been telling you we're going to be doing a thing, an announcement. Right. I've only sent a couple of messages back and forth to Steve, so I'm not promising anything too big right now. But he has been positive. I've said, Steve, would you like to come on my stream and talk about psychology with the people on stream? And he said, yes, that sounds great. I've said, Steve, I think your time is valuable, so I'm prepared to pay you £40 for an episode. But I can't do that every day because I can't afford it. So maybe once every couple of weeks or so, we could do an episode. Like, not make it weekly because that's like very strict, tied in every week, and that's quite a lot of money for me. But you know, once every couple of weeks seems like shout. Steve is a I've got to get the right word. It begins with an F. It's like if you're in the police. Forensic psychologist. Steve is a forensic psychologist who's done a degree in that sort of thing. And Steve makes videos on YouTube about, well, if you scroll down, like all of us, he's made a few gaming videos over the years, 6 years ago. And then he started doing a few videos about like social psychology ideas, like sunk cost bias. Here is an interesting video. Why we still talk about social constructionism. They're interesting videos. And he's been going on about DSP for a bit. I'm going to tell you a little story. So I've introduced you to the concept of Steve, right? Let's show you a quick bit of Steve. I've introduced you to the concept. Here he is.
Hi, I'd use the YouTube Shorts feature to get out a quick response to the immediate aftermath of the Down the Rabbit Hole reaction stream, because it is quicker and easier to do it this way than it is to have everybody wait for the video, and that will probably be a long time because it's going to be a really long video and it'll take a really long time to edit.
So I think he's like a nice guy, and he seems nice, and he talks about psychology. He knows about it. Let me tell you a bit more, right? What I'm aiming to do is I'm aiming to bring Steve on and have an episode, make it a bit like a podcast. We're going to have a topic, we're going to talk through it, I'm going to have my questions, he's going to be my expert, and he's going to talk through it from an expert's perspective, so he's going to have a bit of time to brief himself, you know, for me to show him the questions so he knows what he's going to talk about, because he's going to have like interesting things to talk about. Some of his videos are like 5 hours long. We're not going to go on for 5 hours, it's a bit too much. We might have to break things into smaller sections, do a 2-hour episode, 3-hour episode. Today I've been on for 2.5 hours. I'm about a 3-hour Andy, I am. So about 3 hours is what we're looking for, and we'll really dig into a subject and really go deep on something. For example, we could do Shelley, couldn't we? I could ask Steve, I could say to him, look, here's some videos of this woman. We've been talking about her on stream. What do you think, and what do you think the psychological aspects of homeschooling are? What do you think the psychological aspects of her and her content are? Let's have a big chat. Yeah? So I could do that. We hope to get onto that. I hope to get onto that with Steve. That's an ambition of mine. I've sent him a little message. He sent one back in response saying it's good news. Sounds good. We said he's got a gig on Wednesday, so I want to leave him time to practice and focus on his gig. And then later this week, we'll do some more talking to each other and try and get him on stream. We'll decide on a day and a time for a more regular thing, and away we go. So hopefully we can improve what we're doing here on my stream, our content, by bringing in an expert on a subject and providing regular insight into this world of psychology, which I think is interesting. Okay. I hope you're liking this concept as a general concept, because I think it's a good concept, and you'll see it will be interesting, and they'll make good streams. I'm pretty confident about this. There's one thing I need to cover before we get there, and what our first episode will definitely be about. DSP. Who is DSP? That's Steve. Look. Steve's talking about DSP. Who's DSP?
It might be more personal to you. They might be because...
What's he done here? You realise the words, and gay are not bad words, right? DSP's making slurs. Bad slurs. Oh, it doesn't sound like a good egg. Right, let me show you. Let me show you. DSP. Darkside Phil is the infamous streamer who jerked off on stream. I'm just gonna hover over it so you can see his head moving. If you want to watch a video of a man jerking off on stream, you can. But what happened was, he thought the stream was about to start, so he's got one of these cards up on the screen like they do, you know, stream starting in 10 minutes. But he's there in the corner underneath the chat, underneath our chat. Let me move our chat. He's there in the corner. He's got his camera on, and he thought he'd have a little fiddle before he starts. So they've zoomed in on it, they've caught it, they've cropped it, they've captured it. He has a little fiddle before he starts. So he's the live streamer. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of dryness on my lips from talking for ages and not having enough to drink. I'm just gonna have to... It just feels... I don't want all cotton mouth building up, do I? Anywho. That's one of his many indiscretions, right? But that's not his whole story. We will go over his whole story on this stream. There's a lot of videos about DSP. Look, Darkside Phil. They've made one called Down the Rabbit Hole, which is a 30-minute sort of review of him and his goings on. The bottom line, what I'll tell you, just real quick here, is that he's a bit of a chuffer. people make these videos about him, they detract, they call it. They're not calling it trolling, they're calling it detracting. And this is where I want to start talking to Steve is, what's the difference between a troll and a detractor? Why do people do this to Phil? Is it okay they do it to Phil? Is it cyberbullying? Has Phil made his own enemies? Is Phil... And then we can... That's just one conversation. Another conversation is, how does Phil view these people? And is Phil worthy of this detraction, and is he a bad person, and is it up to us to highlight bad people on the internet? And you know, there's loads of conversations to be had.
Most players
So
just play their games and never...
I've got loads of questions to ask Steve to take us through this Dark Side Phil story, but they make these videos look...
This coming week, not only in the next 4 days do I have to raise enough money to pay my garbage removal bill and also have funds for my day off.
So what he does is he goes on stream, like I'm here now, and he plays games all day, like a streamer does. And his backstory is he used to play Street Fighter 2, and he was in the gaming world, and then he was a YouTuber when YouTube was first big, and then he went downhill and got banned off Twitch, and obviously he did the jerking off on stream. And like, you know, he's got himself in a situation where he can't get a sponsor, and he hasn't got as many followers anymore, and he keeps begging for money all the time, and literally, you know, saying on stream, like, I will not ever sit here on stream and say I need money for XYZ. I've told you I wanted to buy a computer in the past, and we've earned the money through stream. Thank you very much for your tippies, mainly Snippies, capital K, Nigel, but other people have tippied in, and it's all gone into the kitty, and I've got the computer. But I'm not sitting here saying, oh, today I've got the phone bill going out and the gas bill and the electricity, and I need £100 at the end of this stream, otherwise I'm not doing it. Like, so he's on this level, and people don't like it for that. You know, they see it as a bad thing. On top of that, they discovered he was spending loads of money on mobile games and other stuff. So there's a lot of interesting backstory to his story. And there's a lot of... I'll just say there's a lot of content made about Phil on the internet. So on our stream, I'm not too interested in Phil per se. Like, he's not going to become the focus of our stream. I watch this content about this streamer these other people make, and I'm interested in the way they make their content and who they are and what they've got to say, and especially Steve, because Steve uses these Phil streams as a way of turning like the reason the reason Steve, who we're going to get onto our stream, the reason Steve of the Dead, Death Metal Steve, the reason Steve is so interesting and does like a 5-hour video is because Phil will do something on camera, and then Steve will be able to say this is a narcissistic trait, and it reveals this about his behavior and his goals and things like that. So I find that deeper psychology to be interesting, you know, the motivations, the drives, the what's going to happen and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not like, some of these videos are just like, oh, Phil's a dickhead, look, oh, he looks like an idiot and he's rubbish. Not Steve. Steve's not doing that. Steve's saying, like, this one's about Phil's consumption about popular culture and about how not consuming popular culture distances yourself from other people in society. Like, it's a really interesting take on something. So we're going to talk on that front about, initially, DSP. And the reason we're going to start on DSP is because that's what Steve is rolling with at the moment, has been making, like, he's using Phil as a mechanism to talk about psychology on his channel. So we're going to say, tell us about Phil and what you're talking about on your channel. We're going to do a big episode. I've got my questions, psychoanalyzing the deeper meanings behind his presented flaws, stuff like that. Yeah, hello Rudy, I hope the dog walk was okay. You saw a guy collapse on stream last night. Fucking hell. If that ever happens around here, call the ambulance, but you won't know where to send them. I'm not going to tell you my address. Or if I ever tell you my address in a you know, last ditch attempt to allow you to call the ambulance, then call it. I should have it ready in chat, shouldn't I? I should type it in chat ready, and then I'll press enter or return. Do they call it return these days, or enter, if I'm ever keeling over? That sounds really worrying. He's in Canada. God, I hope he's all right. Yeah, I hope he's all right. I hope he's all right. But yeah, what we were going to be doing on our stream is not collapsing, hopefully, but yeah, psychoanalyzing, bringing out conversations about, because the big arc here is what it's like to be a streamer who was reasonably successful and sort of, you know, rode the wave for a bit, because Darkside Phil was quite successful for a bit and then went downhill and, you know, made some mistakes and has people making negative videos about him, and, you know, what it is that infatuates people with that story and why they're continuing to make all this content. I want to get all those answers and those conversations. And once we've done that, I want to say to Steve, here's Shelley. Please watch all her videos. As I'm going to pay you £40 to come and talk about her, please watch her. I mean, it's quite a lot to ask of someone, isn't it? I mean, I hope Steve just enjoys the concept and is interested in doing the work with me, because if we can get it going, maybe we can start our own channel like as a thing. You know, maybe it evolves into its own channel. I don't know, but at the moment, I want to create on our channel a more regular, higher polished media product that comes more regularly. You know, we need to keep evolving and developing forward. I'll always be here playing games and talking about things with you on stream. That's always going to happen. But I want there to be, let's say monthly, you could say, oh yeah, every month we get this pod. Like if you're going to donate and support and become members, and, you know, if I'm going to monetize and have product, you know, content that the world is going to be interested in, I've got to work on it, haven't I? That's the whole point. That's my end of the bargain. I've got to work hard. I've got to try and create. I've got to put together a media thing, like something you would tune in onto YouTube and say, this looks quite, you know, quite professional. At the moment, I'm not that professional. But you know what I'm saying? Because I need a sponsor. I need like viewers and a sponsor. That's bottom line truth, isn't it? So I'm going to work on it. That's what I'm doing. So this is the first step towards that, is having a regular guest who can talk on a high level, highbrow level, an interesting, informative level about these topics that I can then throw at Steve. Hopefully, I mean, £40 is not a lot, but it's all I can afford at the moment. But I can then throw at Steve another topic and say, are you interested in this? Should we do an episode on this? And then he's got a month to think about it and come back to us and then tell us what his thoughts are. And we, in the process of our stream, meet an interesting new, you know, we could do Martin Leaker, couldn't we? We could run Martin Leaker through the forensic psychology mind of an expert. I mean, that could be quite cool, couldn't it? Steve might be interested in that world, or he might not. He might say to me, I don't want to do Martin Leaker. I'm not interested in that sort of thing. And I'll say, fair enough. That's okay. What about this other person or this other topic? And there's a lot of topics in the world of psychology, and, you know, and all in all, what I hope it shows us is a way, because you know what we're like on this stream. All in all, I hope it shows us a way forward. I think it can filter towards Mental Health Monday. I've been worried about Mental Health Monday, about it not getting anywhere or developing into what it needs, its final form. Or maybe we can talk about mental health topics as well, or maybe it's a different conversation. Maybe it's not about depression, but it's about psychology, and psychology feeds into your mental state, which, you know, maybe there's bigger conversations there. So I hope that we can do something good that's got value to it, that through watching the videos, you know, we can say, I'm not trying to poke fun at Dark Side Phil and say, look at this wanker, he wanked on camera, ha ha ha. I'm trying to say, like, you know, isn't this interesting about humanity and how we think, and what lessons can we draw from that? So I'm just going to try and pick up what you heard. Yeah, don't worry. No, I'm picking up what you're throwing down in chat, but I'm not going to roll with any of it, because it's not an episode about Martin or anyone like that. And so, yeah, so you get the concept, don't you? It's going to be a regular but irregularly regular conversation between Steve and me about some interesting conversational topic, focused generally on psychology and sociology and human behaviour, and seeing if we can get somewhere with it. It's my job to come up with the ideas and the topics. Maybe we've already got an easy made one, Dark Side Phil. I've already got another easy made one, this woman, because I've talked about her enough on stream. But you know, it's to come up with the topics and the ideas. And where's my questions? I wonder if I've written my questions. I can maybe show you my questions. If I open up this, because I'd like to give you a good example of what I'm talking about and how I feel. Oh God, I've got to respond to messages. I haven't responded to messages since Sunday. I'm terrible at this sort of thing. My questions go along the lines of this. Okay. One, who is Dark Side Phil? Can you give us a short answer, just, you know, to start the episode off? Because I'm going to do a couple of episodes before where we watch through some of his content, so you on stream already know. But, you know, for the episode, who's Dark Side Phil? Why do people dislike Phil? What are his top 5 worst moments that make people angry? How do you think Phil sees himself and these moments? You know, how does he... Because when things like, you know, wanking off on the internet happen, which is going to be one of the top moments, how do you sort of put that to the back of your mind and carry on? You know, do you think you're some super... It's like PewDiePie got caught snogging someone, or, you know, I saw Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's sex tape, or, you know, they're still Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, but he thinks of himself like that. Does he? Or does he think like, oh God, I'm a grubby idiot, how do I even stream? I don't know, it's quite, to me that's interesting. How do you think he sees himself? How does this differ from the reality? Wasn't he a big YouTuber at one point? This is a question to sort of get some more of his history going on, and we can discuss what it's like to be a big YouTuber at the time of YouTube taking off, because he was, and you know how that makes you feel. Where did it go wrong for Phil? And does Phil have trolls, or does he have detractors? Because there's a difference here. And what is the difference? And then, is Phil being cyberbullied, or is he being held to account? In a world of evils and wars, why does Phil become the focus of this holding to account? Does he deserve it? Like, I think kind of he does, but I don't know why it happens. It's interesting points, aren't they? That sounds nice. That sounds nice. Isabel alive. I'm not gonna shout about it on stream, but that sounds nice. That sounds nice. All the different flavors. What we used to do is we used to put all the different flavors together in one chiffer and called it a royale. Like battle royale. Like called it a royale. So yeah, that sounds nice. I hope you're having a good day. You obviously are. So yeah, we've got these interesting questions to ask of our psychologist. It goes as far as, is there a possibility of a redemption arc for Phil? Does he deserve redemption? You know, we're talking about morality and ethics, so I've got all that going on. I want to ask these questions about these other people as well. So I put the questions together so it forms a story, you know, a one by one set of questions that as... you know what an interview's like. As Steve answers them, it builds up we start here, we finish here, we go through this process, yeah? It's not just random. I'm not just going to sit there and go, so, any ideas about psychology? Like, no, I'm going to have ideas. I'm going to take us, like we do on these episodes, like we've done today. You know, we're going to start somewhere, we're going to look through it, we're going to work through it, we're going to get to an end point. And then hopefully, if we can aim for sort of 3-hour episodes and I can pay him £40 on the Bob for that. I mean, I think his time's worth more than that, and I think if we got monetized, I'd rather give him, say, half the monetization in a fair cut. But I'm not monetized, so I can't give him anything. Like, if I said you get half of it, he gets half of nothing. So I'd rather actually offer him what I can actually afford, which is an evening of your time, some money, and do a collaboration with me, please. And then he can use the videos as well. I'm going to say that because I think that's fair. And then see where we go from there. If we can do it irregularly but regularly, then you start to get a bit more improvement on the content. Hopefully you get to see something that's, you know, a step up from just me talking. There'll be 2 of us talking. There'll be Steve talking. And, you know, that as a start point, maybe I have talked about having other people in this room, but I think it's something in me. I think it's a shyness in me that's worried about going up to people and saying, come and talk in my room. But this is a good step forward toward that. You know, maybe Steve ends up coming here in the room one day. But for now, we're going to start with on the internet, through the Zooms, through the airwaves. You'll see him on the screen like that. I'll be talking to him. You'll be in chat. And I couldn't even get a different guest for a different episode. We've got other ideas for future guests as well. But it's the start of it. That's the main thing. We get it started. Hopefully this week, next week, we'll get Steve on to talk about DSP. In the intervening time, we'll do a couple of episodes where we actually look at DSP. Got too many windows open now. In the intervening time, we'll do a couple of videos where we actually look at this guy and his, you know, his controversial behaviour over the years, so you know who we're talking about. And then Steve will come in and give us the, you know, the episode, and then hopefully the flow, because I do go on about this, the flow of our rotating content will then include these episodes of this, call it a podcast. And then so what we can bring together is, if we do, like today we've done about Michelle, then we can do a podcast episode about Michelle as well, like a companion episode where I get actual proper psychology told through, you know, and then, you know, we put a little neat bow around it and say there was one on that, maybe we do one on Marty, maybe we do one on this, maybe we do one on that, you know, there we go, we got it rolling. So I'm hopefully doing that. That's a big announcement from me. And I don't like announcing things until they're done. You know, I don't really want to say we're doing this instead of it's done and you can see it. But hopefully this week, end of this week, I reply to my messages. Steve does his gig. We get on the Zooms. We start the ball rolling. That's the plan. So thank you very much, everyone, for everything, because I keep saying it, but your contributions being here in chat, we're getting somewhere. We've got to 200 subscribers. We're moving forward. One final quick notice about quality of life. This week, I'm going to try and upload a lot of Genshin Impact because it's backing up on Twitch. On Twitch, we're now 2 weeks ahead.
I'll go grab
Where's my
the
channel?
right.
On Twitch, if you go to my Twitch, about videos, we stream Genshin Impact here, and we're about 2 weeks ahead on these Genshin Impact videos. We're literally like, you know, getting ahead of ourselves. The latest one that got uploaded to YouTube is like all the way down here, look, a month ago. So I need to upload all this Genshin Impact stuff to YouTube. So you're going to see like a slew of Genshin Impact videos on this channel. Please don't think that it's turned into a big Genshin Impact channel. I'm going to try and stream in between the uploads. But you will see a slew of Genshin Impact uploads on this channel while we try and get up to speed, because we want to get everything. It makes sense, doesn't it? Get everything up to speed. So that's a quality of life announcement as to what's to come. Now I've inspired you to go and read one of these wonderful books. Now I've inspired you. Hopefully it has been a good one today. Hopefully it's been a good one. Because I don't want to be a bully on the internet. I do worry about this woman's children and the concepts that are brought up. Maybe one day she could come on and defend her position. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Yeah, in Canada things are different, aren't they? In Canada you're allowed. That's good. I mean, I don't worry, you know, obviously I don't worry if I go and buy myself a little bit off my mate, or, you know, I don't go out on the street buying off dealers. I've got a mate who I know. I shouldn't say this on the internet, should I? But no, I've got a mate who I know, so I don't have to go, you know, doing anything too dodgy. And I don't buy huge amounts, so I don't think, like, the police would not want to kick, like, the police wouldn't want to kick in my door for an ounce of weed, would they? So I feel kind of fine about it. I don't ever worry about it, but at the same time, like, yeah, it is. My problem is on the internet. The laws of my country govern the laws of my content. So if tomorrow they legalise weed in my country, then I can smoke weed on camera and talk about it. But because the laws of my country govern my content, I've got to smoke cigarettes and not talk about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a part of the content, and what's because YouTube has a system of you know, what's allowed and what's appropriate. It's weird, isn't it? If you live in Amsterdam, you can make a video about taking ketamine, but I can't do that here. Same video would be not allowed because I'm in the UK, and the laws of my land would say that that's not legal, therefore is irresponsible content. So it's a funny one, but yeah, I'm not too worried about it, but at the same time, I have to just adhere to that. It's one of them things. I better move the chat back.
And it's about making mistakes, and it's about making memories.
Yep, we've made a few. So I'm gonna get off, upload some Genshin Impact, probably play some more Chuffing Genshin Impact so that I've got more to upload. I'm gonna get off and start banging out, and it's not gonna be like special uploads with all special thumbnails and stuff. You'll see quite a bit of Genshin Impact. But we need to get up to speed. So you be good, my little Prakash, you be good. And remember, if you can't be good, you're naughty. And you go into detention. But where's detention happening? Because you're already at home. So that's a bit of a weird one. Where am I going to lock you? Which room are you going to get locked in?